A strangled gasp escaped her lips, her hands scrabbling at the oppressive darkness. She was trapped, a canary in a cage made of silk and lies. His voice, a venomous whisper in the night, slithered into her ear. He spoke of our rewards of giving her, the saintess, to his returning soldiers as a prize. His smile was a cruel sin in the dark, his eyes glittering with a possessive, predatory. He grabbed her chin, his touch like ice against skin, sneering her defiance. They wouldn't show mercy just because she was a woman, he hissed. She was his toy, his property. She was nothing. The weight of his words, of his gaze, was suffocating. She couldn't bear it anymore. The constant surveillance, the endless torment, the gilded cage that was slowly crushing her soul. Enough. It was enough. A surge of desperate power coursed through her. With this blood, she thought, a crimson light blooming from her very being. Her hands trembled as she held the swirling energy, her white dress glowing in the unholy light as her feet lifted from the ground. With a final, soul-shattering cry, she called him forth. The world dissolved into a vortex of red and black, a pact being sealed in the abyss. She had done it. She had exchanged her very soul with a demon king from another world, all to alter a fate that was worse than death. From the shadows, a monstrous form emerged, its voice a deep rumble that shook the very foundations of her reality. "Tell me," it growled, its red locking on her. "What is your wish?" The beast loomed over her, a terrifying savior in the moonlit room, and so the deal was made. But in another world, a different soul resided in a body just as proud. A woman in Shanghai, a queen in her own right, her gaze sharp and unyielding as she looked down upon the world she had conquered. She was the proud, aloof butterfly of the corporate world, a strong-willed CEO who suddenly found herself tangled in the destiny of a forgotten princess from a fallen kingdom. A new fate was beginning to unfold. "I told you I can save you," a voice from the past echoed. A promise had been made. "Work with me," he'd said, "and in exchange I'll the curse bestowed upon the Priscilla family." This was Alice Catalite, the jewel of the Catalite kingdom, a saintess with the power of the gods, now unwilling to be a canary in anyone's cage. Her soul had been sacrificed for a new life, a new chance, but her new partner was as a man shrouded in ice. Phelan Priscilla, the sharpest blade in the kingdom, his brilliance born from bloodshed and a terrible curse. His cold, golden eyes stared back at her, his voice laced with suspicion as he asked why he should trust her. A ghost of a smile played on her lips as she challenged him, asking if he didn't even dare to try. And with that, the young eagle sprouted new wings, embarking on a path of revenge, power, and a dangerous, burgeoning romance. Her hand reached out, and he took it, their fingers lacing together over a glowing magic circle. "This is my proposal," she declared. But their two hearts, longing to embrace, were becoming gradually entangled tighter and tighter by the thorny vines of deceit. A story of deadly roses was about to begin. The moon hung high and heavy in the night sky, casting a pale light over the silent palace grounds. Inside, behind layers of silk and shadows, a heavy sigh escaped her lips. A pained groan followed, her body trembling with feverish heat and humiliation. Lars, the crown prince, smirked down at her, his face flushed with exertion and cruel satisfaction. Sweat beaded on his brow as he savored her torment. This saintess title, he mused, was more useful than he'd ever imagined. Alice turned head away, her golden hair spilling across the pillows, a single tear tracing a path of shame down her cheek. A holy sigil glowed faintly on her chest, a mockery of her purity. "Don't you think so, Alice?" he whispered, his voice a poison that seeped into her very soul. Her beautiful eyes blazing with a defiant fire that refused to be extinguished. The light in her eyes, that infuriating pride, no matter how he tried to degrade her, it always the same thing. "I'm above you." What was she even being so arrogant about? He snarled, his patience snapping. He lunged, pinning her wrists above her head. Her muffled protests were swallowed by the darkness. "How dare I?" She tried to scream, but he was on her in an instant. "Alice," he sneered, his face dangerously close to hers. "You are no longer that lofty princess." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Now you can only cling to life beneath me." He crushed his lips against hers, a brutal, punishing kiss. A tear escaped her eye as his mouth violated hers. In a surge of desperate revulsion, she bit down. Hard, he recoiled with a cry of pain, clutching his bleeding lip. "Are you completely out of your mind?" he yelled, his eyes wide with shock and fury. He wiped the blood from his mouth, his expression twisting into something truly ugly. "I was going to spare you for healing me," he seethed. "You really don't know how to show gratitude." He looked at the blood on his finger, a dark promise forming in his eyes. He grabbed a fistful of her nightgown, his knuckles white. A wicked grin spread across his face. The former saintess turned into a filthy military whore, he mused aloud, his gaze sweeping over her with disgust. "They'll definitely love it." "You forced me to do this, Alice, Alice," he thought, his footsteps echoing as he walked away. He paused at the door, throwing one last command over his shoulder. "If you want to beg me, then do it sincerely." He left her there, a crumpled heap of white silk and broken pride on the floor. Silence descended upon the room. Slowly, she pushed herself up, the emptiness of the grand chamber pressing in on her. A wave of pure, unadulterated rage washed over her. With a guttural scream, she swept a nearby vase off its pedestal, the porcelain shattering against the marble floor. She stood amidst the wreckage, her long hair cascading down her back, her bare feet inches from the sharp shards. Her eyes, cold and blue like chips of ice, landed on a piece of broken porcelain. She snatched it up, not even flinching as it bit into her palm. Crimson blood welled up, dripping from her fingers. This was it. No more. A swirling red magic circle ignited at her feet, feeding on her rage and her blood. Power surged through her, her hair flying as she held the pulsating orb of energy in her hands. Her feet left the floor as she began the incantation. With my blood, I summon you into this world. The room exploded with chaotic energy, a demonic presence tearing through the veil. A massive, wolf-like creature materialized before her, its voice a low, ancient rumble. It's been so long since I felt such pure power, it said, its glowing red eyes fixing on her. Speak. What is your wish? Alice stared up at the terrifying beast, her face a mask of cold fury. There was only one thing she wanted, only one thing that mattered. Her voice was raw, shaking with hatred as she spoke the words, I want revenge. Revenge. On Liar's Cameron. Memories, sharp and bloody, flooded her mind. He destroyed my country. She saw her home in flames, her people slaughtered. He cruelly murdered my father, even had his bones fed to beasts. The image of her father's bloody hand reaching for her as she cried out his name burned behind her eyes. Day and out, he tortured me without mercy. The phantom pains, the endless humiliation, it was all there. She fell to her knees, her voice breaking into a desperate plea. I beg you, help me take revenge. The demon regarded her coolly. I can grant that, but will you offer in return? Without hesitation, her eyes flashing with grim determination, she answered, my soul. A terrifying grin spread across the demon's fanged maw. Then it's a deal, human. The scene dissolved, shifting to another time, another place. A modern bedroom, clothes strewn across the bed. A woman with crimson lips and nails to match brought a cigarette to her mouth, the smoke curling around her face. This was Chang Ya. She lay in bed, casually scrolling through her phone. On the screen was an image of a character from a web novel, Renouncing. To end up like this? How pathetic, she murmured to herself. A man's voice broke her concentration. Chen, he cooed, snuggling up beside her. What now? She asked, her Talat. He smiled, hopeful. We've gone out so many times. Shouldn't we make our relationship? Her crimson eyes narrowed, a flicker crossing her face. With a sharp, deliberate movement, she stubbed out her cigarette in the ashtray. Have you forgotten my rules? She asked, her voice dangerously quiet. She sat up, her expression unreadable. The man looked flustered. That's not what I meant. He reached for her, his hand landing on her shoulder. Don't touch me, she snapped, pulling away as if burned. She stood, turning her back on him, her voice as cold and final as a tombstone. Don't meet me again. I don't like playing with people who have no rules. She didn't look back. She walked down to the city night, a solitary figure in a sea of strangers. Pausing on the street corner, she lit another cigarette. Teachy, so boring, she muttered, the smoke pluming from her lips. She was in her 30s, the CEO of a famous company. Money, status, fame, everything others strived for, she had it all. But it felt hollow. She stood at the pinnacle of success, with countless hands reaching up for her, yet she felt like her story was already over. What should I do next? She wondered, staring at the blank pages after the end of a book. The man from her bed flashed in her mind. Love? Tish. She took a drag from her cigarette, a cynical smile on her lips. Why are so many people obsessed with romance? She mused, gazing out at the city lights. Bunch of idiots, she scoffed. The truth of love is no responsibility, no rejection, no initiative. She crossed the street, lost in her jaded thoughts. A framed photo of a happy family appeared in her mind's eye, a painful memory she kept buried deep. There's no such thing as true affection between men and women, she thought bitterly. Anyone who believes it is a fool. A sudden, blinding light. The screech of tires on pavement. She looked up, her eyes wide with shock as a massive truck. The world exploded in a cacophony of shattering glass and twisted metal. Darkness. Then a spreading pool of crimson. Her life, her memories, the faded photograph of her family, all stained with blood. The hands of a clock spun violently backward, time itself unraveling. 2 years ago, Setilo Kingdom's capital, Yekisi City. Ya gasped, consciousness returning with a painful jolt. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning wood. Where is this place? She whispered, her head throbbing. Shouts echoed through the chaos. Alice is here. Catch her. Her head snapped up as she saw armed soldiers charging in her direction. Why is it so noisy? Who are those people? The soldiers rushed past, their armor clanking. Her eyes widened in dawning horror. Are they after me? There was no time to think. She had to hide. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she scrambled for cover, the flames licking at the hem of her strange dress. She darted behind a stone pillar, pressing herself into the shadows. This place looks like the best option for now, she thought, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The guards stormed past. Where's she? Did you report false info? One demanded. I saw her come in with my own eyes, the other insisted. Damn it, she must have slipped past us. Move out, search again. Peeking from her hiding spot, she watched them go, her mind reeling. Something's not right. Didn't I die in an accident? Where is this place? Who are these people? Why are they dressed so old-fashioned? She looked down at herself, at the unfamiliar green dress with its ruffled collar and lace. Her hand went to her throat. Is this? A voice cold and ethereal echoed in the depths of her mind. A soul from another world, you are the one I have chosen. Come now, come. Fill my revenge for me. A searing pain shot through her skull, and she collapsed against the pillar, clutching her head. What is this memory? Images flooded her mind, not her own. A burning city, a desperate battle. An old man with a kind, terrified face, his hands covered in blood. Hurry and run, Lyres has ordered the city sealed. I don't want you to be caught by him, he begged. He pulled her into a hug, his voice thick with tears. Alice, don't be afraid. I will always love you. Alice? The name echoed, strange and yet familiar. Then she saw him. The cruel blonde-haired prince sitting on the throne, a smug look on his face as he gave the order. Quickly bring the princess back. She saw herself, or rather, the girl whose body this was running for her life. Her face streaked with tears and soot. Father! You'll protect? The girl sobbed, stumbling through the burning streets. She tripped, falling hard onto the stone ground, a cry of pain escaping her lips. And then everything clicked into place. The novel she was reading on her phone. The tragic heroine. The cruel prince. It all made a terrifying kind of sense. Her eyes, now a startling shade of blue, snapped open. I transmigrated into the novel, The Ruined Saint Alice, and I've become the female lead herself. The story was a tragedy, a cautionary tale of a princess named Alice, a woman who embodied everything beautiful in this world. She was gentle, kind. The people of her kingdom didn't just love her, they adored her, revered her as a living saint. And for good reason. Alice possessed a divine power, a radiant light that could heal any illness, a gift from the heavens themselves. But this gift held a dark secret, a power that became even more potent when shared intimately. Her father, the old king, knew the danger. He knew that if this secret ever got out, it wouldn't just doom Alice, it would doom their entire kingdom. He did everything in his power to protect her, to shield her light from the shadows gathering at their borders. But the wolves had already caught the scent of blood. His name was Lyres, the crown prince of the enemy nation, a tyrant who craved power, and even more so, a healthy body to wield it. He invaded the kingdom of Sadilo with an overwhelming force, a tide of steel and fire that crashed against the castle walls. His goal was singular, to hunt down the escaped Princess Alice. He found her, and he broke her. He drained her of her powers, humiliated her in the most vile ways, using her divine gift for his own selfish desires. To completely shatter her spirit, Lyres subjected her to every cruel torture he could imagine. But through all the pain, through all the shame, Alice never bowed. Her spirit, though battered, refused to break. Eventually, once his own body was healed and whole, Lyres grew bored of her. He cast her aside like a broken toy, passing her from one power-hungry noble to another. A chained prize for the arrogant elite, the cold-hearted onlookers, the loyal hounds, and the twisted deceivers. The Alice of the past was shackled, a prisoner in her own story. But that story is over. Now this body, this power, belongs to me, Seong Ahe, and I refuse to repeat the same mistakes. This isn't a story about tragedy anymore. This is a story event. A smile touches my lips as I hide in the shadows of the ruined castle. It's done. I've escaped. A sharp pain shoots up from my foot. I was so tense running for my life that I didn't even notice my ankle swelling up like this. Wait, a memory surfaces not my own, but hers. If I remember right, the original Alice had a healing ability written into her character, right? A flicker of warmth, a golden light pools in my palm. If she could use it, then I should be able to use it too. I place my hand over the swollen joint, and the pain vanishes, the swelling receding in seconds. A bitter thought follows the relief. Still, this power was the very reason Alice died such a miserable death. I have to keep it sealed, hidden away from the greedy eyes of this world. First things first, I need to check the situation outside, then plan my next move. Cautiously, I pull the hood of my cloak lower and creep toward the crumbling archway. Just as I peer out, a voice cuts through the night. I knew I wasn't seeing things. My blood runs cold. A guard, his face lit with a varus, points his spear right at me. This bounty's mine, he declares. This is bad. This is very, very bad. My heart hammers against my ribs. He sneers, his voice dripping with menace as he says, "Princess, just come quietly. Don't make me rough you up." His filthy hand grabs my arm, his grip like iron. I glare at him, my defiance clear, his face twists in rage. "What's with that attitude from a fallen princess?" he bellows. "Time to teach you a lesson." He shoves me back and thrusts his spear forward. I dive to the side, the spearhead scraping against the stone where I just stood. But my escape is clumsy, and I trip, sprawling onto the cold ground. I look up into his predatory eyes. There's no way I can win a fight like this. Not with this body, this weak. He looms over me, a disgusting smirk spreading across his face. "Princess," he coos, "looks like you've hurt your leg. How about I treat you before we hand you over to the crown prince?" My stomach turns. Does every single male character in this novel think with the wrong head? My fingers scrabble against the ground, searching for anything, any weapon. They close around a loose, heavy stone. I shrink back, forcing terror into my voice, into my eyes. Don't come any closer." He just laughs, a cruel barking sound. "That's not your choice to make." As he lunges for me, I swing the rock with all my might. There's a sickening crack as it connects with his skull. His eyes go wide with shock, and he crumples to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. I stand over his unconscious form, my breathing heavy. Arrogant men, I think, my voice cold even in my own head. This is what you get for underestimating someone. Wasting no time, I kneel down and search his pockets. My fingers close around a heavy pouch, gold. Triumphant smile plays on my lips. This will cover tuition. Next time you see a pretty face, don't drop your guard so fast. I scan the area. No one else around. Perfect. I've dodged the first death flag. It's time to get out of here. Move. I take a single step into the road when a thunder of hooves fills the air. A carriage, drawn by a massive black horse, barrels out of the darkness, straight for me. My eyes widen in sheer terror. Are you kidding me? Am I seriously about to die again right after arriving? Who the hell stands in the middle of the road at night? The horse rears violently. It's terrifying, splitting the night air, its hooves missing my head by mere inches. I stumble back, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. A wave of relief washes over me. Whew, false alarm. A stern voice snaps from the carriage. Who dares block the Duke's carriage? Can you afford the consequences? My hood has fallen back, and I look up to see a man with a monocle glaring down at me. His expression of fury instantly melts into pure shock. His jaw drops. Oh my god, Princess Alice. The commotion? My eyes are drawn to the emblem on the carriage door. The crest of House Priska, a new voice, smooth and cold as winter night, cuts through the air. What's all this commotion? A man steps out of the carriage. Silver hair that seems to glow under the moonlight, and piercing violet eyes that hold no warmth whatsoever. Friedrich Priska, current head of House Priska, and the former duke of my fallen kingdom. The name echoes with a memory, a vision from the null Alice on her knees in the freezing snow, bloodied and desperate, reaching out to him. Duke Priska, please save me, she had begged, and yet he had always been the cold, indifferent observer, watching her suffer from the sidelines, never lifting a finger. And now he stands before me, his expression just as remote, his presence an intimidating wall of ice. His violet eyes fix on me. What business do you have with the Duke? He asks, his tone leaving no room for pleasantries. I can't show fear. Not now. I dip into a graceful curtsy, forcing a gentle smile. I begin, my voice soft. My father's to mention him in time. I didn't expect we'd meet under such strange circumstances. Got time to catch up? His reply is instant and brutal. Sorry, I don't. He turns his back on me, ready to get back into his carriage. No. I can't let him walk away that easily. He's a crucial piece of the puzzle. The carriage begins to move. Just then, another man approaches holding a lavish box. You walk fast, Duke, he says cheerfully. Almost forgot to take the sash the crown prince awarded you. Friedrich doesn't even turn around. His voice is laced with contempt. Do me a favor. Tell His Highness that House Priska is unworthy of such an honor. My eyes widen. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife. An idea brilliant and dangerous. Sparks in my mind. Looks like Friedrich has had it with being the crown prince's lapdog. Maybe I'll fan the flames. Duke! I cry out, my voice desperation, and I throw myself towards him, collapsing dramatically at his feet. I press my hand to my forehead, feigning a dizzy spell. Before he can react, I shamelessly grab onto his leg, clinging to him like my life depends on it. He freezes, looking down at me in utter disbelief. What the hell are you doing? This is my chance. The crown prince's man is watching, his eyes wide. I let the tears well up, my voice trembling with practiced sorrow. I know you blame me for drugging you before your northern campaign. I sob, making sure my voice carries. Then the final blow, I clutch my stomach. But I'm carrying your child. Duke, I can't let you. A sharp intake of breath comes from the prince's man. Friedrich's eyes flash with fury, but then comprehension dawns. He leans down, his lips to my ear, his whisper a low threat. Just play along and I'll get rid of him. The prince's man is now blushing furiously, completely flustered. Who knew the famously cold-blooded Duke had such scandalous tales of romance? Friedrich plays his part perfectly. He reaches down and takes my hand, pulling me to my feet. Sorry, he says to the stunned messenger, his voice smooth as silk. I've got business to handle first. With that, he pulls me into the carriage, and the door slams shut. The moment we're hidden from view, the act drops. His grip on my arm tightens, and his violet eyes are chips of ice. You really know how to play the game. Jealous? A cool smile on my face. Well, I'd help you shake off a headache, you're welcome. His jaw clenches. Get out, on your own, I don't want to make a scene. He barks an order to the driver. Stop the carriage. The carriage jolts to a halt in the middle of a dark, eerie forest. This is it. My last chance. I look him straight in the eye, my voice steady. Tell me, is this how the great Duke repays life debt? He scoffs. And how exactly do you want to be repaid? My demand is simple. Take me back to your estate. His answer is just as simple and twice as cold. Not happening. He leans back, his expression unyielding. You're not who you used to be. I won't risk dragging House Priska into a scandal, especially when you just threw a bucket oath on my name. So no, I refuse. I lean forward, letting a sly, knowing smirk grace my lips. What if I said I knew your secret? His eyes narrow. Press my advantage, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Or should I say, your family's secret? He doesn't move, but a flicker of something appears in his eyes. What are you getting at? I deliver the killing blow, my words sharp and precise. Every head of the Priska family dies before they reach 30. I let that sink in. It's a divine punishment, isn't it? For generations of bloodshed. And you, Friedrich Priska, you're the newest head of the house. If I'm not wrong, you're already 28, right? The air in the carriage grows heavy, suffocating. I lean in closer still, my final offer hanging between us. Hold on, what if I told you I could save you? For the first time, his icy composure cracks. He looks at me, really looks at me, a storm of emotions warring in his eyes. And why would I believe that? He asks, his voice rough. I give him a confident, enigmatic smile. You could always take me home and find out for yourself. He stares at me, his jaw tight, his mind racing. I can see the calculation in his gaze. He's trapped. A man with only 2 years left to live has nothing to lose and everything gain. He has no choice. Without another word, the carriage begins to move again, carrying us deeper than night towards the Duke's estate. Memories of the original novel flicker through my mind. Years after the fall of the kingdom. Friedrich's study. The Crown Prince Lyre sits opposite him, with Alice standing behind him like a doll. After the fall of the kingdom, Alice didn't just become Lyre's personal plaything. She also became his diplomatic pawn. Lyre was trying to persuade Friedrich, his voice deceptively smooth. Everyone in the Empire knows the princess has a body that can heal any disease in the world. You don't have so stubborn. He leans forward, his smile turning into a cruel smirk. Don't you miss having a healthy body of your own? Friedrich, now 30 years old, coughs violently into a handkerchief. The family curse clearly taking its toll. Lyre presses on, relentless. The Empire still needs a warrior like you. Quit hesitating. But Friedrich's resolve is iron. Your Majesty, he says, his weak but firm. House Priska's code forbids building happiness on the suffering of the weak. This is the fate of Friedrich Priska. I've already accepted it. You should go. The original Alice's eyes had widened, a flicker of hope in their depths. He had chosen to die rather than use her. Lyre sneers. Fine, fine. Friedrich, you've got guts. I'll give you that. As he walks out, he backhands Alice across the face, his voice dripping with venom. Useless fool. She was left crumpled on the floor of the guest room. Alone in the dark. I close my eyes, pushing the memory away. Are you touched, Alice? Touched by a man who's done nothing but watch you suffer from the sidelines? A few empty words at the end of his life? That won't do. Letting weak emotions cloud your judgment is a path to ruin. According to the timeline, his body should already be showing signs of the famblers. The original Alice was used by Lyres, but this passive waiting around is unbearable. I might as well strike first and turn him into one of us. A sharp knock at the door startles me from my thoughts. Who's there? Friedrich opens the door, his expression serious. Alice, we need to talk. I put on my brightest, most carefree smile. Sorry, I'm not in the mood for talk right now. And with a cheerful little hum, I slam the double doors right in his face. Outside, the butler looks concerned. Master, should we return Lady Alice to the palace? Friedrich pinches the bridge of his nose, a weary sigh escaping him. Forget it. Her father once helped House Priska. We'll wait a little longer. His voice regaining its authority. Clean up the traces. Make sure no one finds out she was ever here. The next morning, I find Friedrich in the dining room. He's reading a document, sipping his morning tea. I glide into the room, my voice bright. Good morning, Duke. He looks up, and his violet eyes widen almost imperceptibly. He takes in my appearance, a lovely new pink dress, my hair perfectly styled. I'm not a refugee anymore. I'm a guest. Breakfast at the estate looks amazing, I comment, taking my seat as if I belong here. Without a word, his butler places something on the table in front of me. It's a wanted poster, with my face on it, 1,000 gold coins and a noble title for my capture. My smile falters for only a second. Then I look up at Friedrich, my expression one of pure, unbothered amusement. So, I ask. A slow smirk spreads across Friedrich's face, a mirror of my own confidence. The game has truly begun. Princess, he says, his voice a low, challenging purr. Are you ready to talk now? Alice swirled the deep red wine in her glass, a picture of perfect calm. I thought you'd wait a little longer before revealing your feelings. A sly smile playing on her lips. But Friedrich's voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. He sneered. It's a blatant threat, reminding her of her precarious position. He told her that Prince Lyres was tearing the kingdom apart, looking for her, obsession a raging fire. And if Friedrich so wished, she would end up just like the steak on her plate, completely and utterly at his mercy. The threat hung in the air, thick and suffocating. So I'm supposed to be tearful, helpless. A soft, amused smile graced her lips. She was supposed to be begging him not to hand her over to that madman Lyres, wasn't she? Friedrich's expression was a mask of stone, his patience wearing thin. She leisurely picked up her teacup, her gaze unwavering. If that's what you want from me, Your Excellency, then I'm afraid you're going to be sorely disappointed. She took a delicate sip, echoing in the tense silence, and that was it, the final straw. In a flash, he was on his feet. He lunged, his hand grabbing her chin, forcing her head up. The table was sent flying, the perfectly cooked steak and potatoes scattering across the floor. The porcelain plate met the stone with a deafening crash, shattering into 1,000 pieces, just like his composure. But Alice didn't even flinch. Instead, she leaned in closer, a strange confidence radiating from her. His eyes widened in shock as her hand came to rest gently on his chest. I told you." Her voice was a low, mesmerizing whisper. "I can save you." A golden light began to emanate from her, bathing them in a divine glow. "Join hands with me, and in return, I'll lift the curse on the Priska family." Fydrik froze, his mind reeling. That's impossible. His thoughts screamed in defiance. This curse can't be cured. Memories assaulted him. On a rainy day, a small coffin being lowered into the ground, a child holding a bouquet of white lilies, his heart shattered by a grief too heavy to bear, an incurable, generational torment that had claimed so many. But her voice cut through his despair. "You won't know unless you try." She held out her hand, an open invitation surrounding ethereal flowers. "Give me your hand." He hesitated, his own hand clenching into a tight fist at his side. Was he really that scared? Tusk even try? She looked down at him, her gaze a mixture of pity and challenge. "It looks like your courage only goes so far." He finally spoke, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "So your grand plan is to borrow the Priska family's might and the new emperor's power to fight back?" He scoffed. "Clever. Why didn't I think of that?" His brilliant blue eyes narrowed with suspicion. He turned his head, refusing to look at her. But she simply stood there, a beacon of unwavering resolve. He turned back, his gaze locking with hers, and in that moment, she took a step forward. She gently took his hand in hers. A blinding, divine power exploded from her touch. "I'll use my divine power," she declared, her voice ringing with authority, "to completely cleanse the curse haunting the Priska bloodline. From this day forward, the Priska family will be free." Fydrik could only stare, his purple eyes wide with disbelief as the golden light enveloped them. This is Alice Patrick's sincerity to Fydrik Priska. A few days later, under a moonlit sky, a grand carriage pulled up to the estate. Fydrik stood waiting, and his butler greeted him with a knowing smile. "Good evening, sir. You're looking much better lately." Fydrik's mind drifted back to her offer, her impossible power. "Fine," he finally decided, a rare, soft smile gracing his lips. "I accept your offer." The night of the banquet arrived with a whisper of intrigue. A woman in a stunning red gown approached him. "Your Excellency, have you already forgotten me?" It was Alice, her hair and eye color magically altered. She reminded him that the transformation potion she gave him worked perfectly. She took a step closer, her new identity a perfect disguise. Fydrik's expression was grim. "Even though we agreed to work together," he warned her, "walking straight into the lion's den like this, I can't guarantee I'll get you out in one piece." He held out his arm. It's a gentleman's duty to protect his lady companion. She took his arm without hesitation, and for a second he was utterly stunned by her boldness. This woman, just who was she? They walked along the grand, red-carpeted bridge toward the palace, a striking couple turning every head. Whispers erupted around them. "The Duke actually brought a female companion. This is major news." "What about me? Whose daughter is that?" "She looks unfamiliar." Fydrik leaned in, his voice a low murmur against her ear. "Seems like you're stealing all the spotlight tonight." He then added, "From now on, call me Cheng Ya." She simply replied, "Okay." As they stepped into the dazzlingly lit ballroom, his promise echoed in her mind. "Alice, this entire night order will now serve you." He had knelt before her, his knights behind him, pledging their unwavering loyalty. He had promised to wait for her in the safest location in all of Sadilo. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. She would not fail. Suddenly, a cheerful voice broke through the crowd. "I'm glad to see you here." It was Prince Lyres, his golden hair and charming smile a deceptive facade. He descended the stairs, and Fydrik and Alice turned to greet him. The prince's gaze lingered on them for a moment too long, a predatory glint in his eyes. Later, as couples twirled on the dance floor, Alice leaned towards Fydrik. "I need to use the washroom," she whispered. He nodded, his expression unreadable. But as he watched her walk away, his mind was a whirlwind of suspicion. How could a fallen princess boldle into the enemy's palaces? "Alice, what are you really after?" His eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint within them. "I really want to see what it is she's after." He stood, ready to follow. Alice slipped outside into the cool night air, her red dress a splash of color against the moonlit architecture. She was being watched, but she paid them no mind. Her thoughts were consumed by her father's last words. The safest place, could it be there? A memory surfaced, so vivid it was like yesterday. A tiny Alice, clutching a treasure box, looked up at her father, the king. "Father, why can't I just take the key myself?" His hand gently rested on her head. "To wear the crown, you must bear its weight," he had told her. "But I'm already strong, father. Every teacher says I'm amazing." He explained that the court was not a classroom. It was a forest of wolves, corrupt, circling like predators, awaiting their sacrificial feast, while the innocent lambs stood fattened for slaughter, unaware of the hungry, licking jaws. "Your father has already paved the road for your future," he'd said, his voice heavy. "If that day ever comes, you must use everything I've given you to strike back." Strike back. What does that mean? Like when we chase butterflies. The king had only laughed, his love for her shining in his eyes. "You're still too young. You'll understand I did all this because I love you." The memory faded, leaving a bitter taste. "Your father really went all in for you," she thought, her expression hardening. "Pity this lamb was slaughtered before it was fully grown. But now I'm the one who's become the hunter, and they're the prey." Her pace quickened, but she was not alone. The men following her were shocked. The royal forbidden altar grounds? What's she doing there? One of them realized the gravity of the situation. Go report back to His Highness, he ordered his companion. I'll keep following her. Alice stepped on a moon-drenched terrace. She knew she wasn't alone. Who's there? She snapped. The guard lunged from the shadows, but he had sorely underestimated his target. In a blur of motion, she sidestepped his attack, disarmed him, and pressed his own weapon against his throat. That's it? You try to tail him on with skills like that? Speak. Who sent you? When he struggled, she silenced him with a sharp jab. If you don't know how to talk, keep your mouth shut. With a final, contemptuous glare, she dismissed him. That's all you've got. Go back and train harder. She turned and walked away, leaving him collapsed on the cold stone floor. The guard lay there, stunned. The princess, she's not nearly as delicate as I thought. He was still trying to process his defeat when a polished boot stepped into his line of sight. A hand reached down and grabbed him by his collar, hauling him up. It was Fodor, his expression thunderous. I can't let House Priska get tangled in something this reckless. Meanwhile, Alice had reached the altar. Based on Alice's memories, blood verification first, then altar activation, she murmured, slicing her finger and letting her blood drip onto the ancient stone. Crimson energy flared to life, swirling around her. This should work, right? The ground trembled, and a section of the floor slid away, revealing a hidden staircase leading into the darkness below. She descended into a vast, hidden chamber. It was a royal vault, and before her stood a magnificent, life-size dragon statue carved from stone. Of course, she thought with a smirk, the treasures here are on another level. Her father's riddle echoed in her mind, hidden within the pearl's gaze. Her eyes snapped to the dragon's head. That means, it's here. She reached for the glowing orb in the statue's eye, but it wouldn't move. Teach, annoyed, she snatched a battle axe from a nearby display. With a furious cry, she swung the axe with all her might, shattering the dragon's stone head into a million pieces. There, amidst the rubble, lay a massive, gleaming blue gem. The key should be here, right? She picked up, a triumphant glint in her eyes, but she examined it. Her face fell. Not here? If the key wasn't in the gem, then what could be safer than this place? Frustrated, she sighed. Forget it, I've been out too long already. I'll come back next time and check more thoroughly. Emerged from the altar grounds, walking back towards the palace. Suddenly, a hand shot out of the darkness, grabbing her wrist in an iron grip. What are you doing here? Fodor demanded, his voice low and dangerous. She yanked her arm back. Since when did the Duke take up detective work? He slammed her against a stone pillar, trapping her. Speak, he hissed, his face inches from hers, but she just smiled, a defiant spark in her eyes. Sorry. No comment. Do you realize you're playing with fire? He growled. She looked at the stars, unfazed. The Duke has his secrets. What? Surely the Duke allows me to keep a few secrets of my own? Before he could retort, a voice shattered tension. Here they are. Prince Lyres and his knight rounded the corner. What are you two doing out here? Not satisfied with the banquet menu. Lyres's smile was a predatory slash across his face. A wave, panic, over Alice. The potion's effects are wearing off. Her heart hammered against her ribs. In a split second, she made a decision. She threw her arms around Fodor, pulling him flush against her. Her lips brushed his ear as she whispered a deadly ultimatum. Play along, or I kill you. She immediately began her performance, her voice turning sultry and loud enough for Lyres to hear. Oh, Duke, you're so bold. I just stepped out to handle something private. I want more. She pressed herself against his back, wrapping her arms around him as Lyres approached. The prince's eyes glinted with amusement. Seems I interrupted your fun. Fodor, caught in her trap, had no choice but to play along. He scoffed, his voice cold. Fodor, you've always been cold for women. Why the sudden entanglement with some random stray? She's an I picked up during my last campaign. Her parents died in the war. I just felt sorry for her. Lyres' smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. Funny, my informant tells me she headed straight for the royal altar grounds. Care to explain that? Fodor's armed around Alice. You're overthinking it, your highness. I just came here to find a quiet place to let this little nympho have some fun. As if on cue, Alice giggled and traced a finger on his chest. It tickles. Lyres's gaze. Perfect. Then I'm sure you won't mind letting me sample a bit of that northern flavor myself. She clearly can't wait to put on a show. The air crackled with unspoken threats. Alice and Fodor could only stare at each other, trapped in a lie that was about to spiral violently out of control. The crown prince's gaze swept over her, dripping with disdain. What was the problem? The problem was her. Typical. Ugly and loud, that's all he saw. But as Fodor turned to leave, taking her with him, a sudden resolve hardened in her eyes. No, she wouldn't let this go. She couldn't. A hand shot out, stopping him in his tracks. His Highness... This isn't over. Before he could react, her hands were on his face, her touch surprisingly firm, forcing his gaze to meet hers. Her voice was a low command. Fodor, look at me. And then in a move that shattered the polite facade of the royal banquet, she pulled him down, her lips crashing against his. The entire hall fell silent. Her hand slid down, grabbing his and pressing it firmly against her waist. Her whisper was a hot breath against his lips for his ears only. Touch me. Don't resist. We're just putting on a show. His eyes widened, shock-warring with confusion. What in the world was she doing? As they kissed under the watchful eyes of the entire court, her fingers tightened their grip on his suit. pulling him impossibly closer. She leaned into his embrace, a dazzling, victorious smile playing on her lips. "You're doing great, babe," she purred, her voice a seductive melody as she pressed her body against his. Her next words, whispered directly into his ear, sent a jolt through him. "And wow, you're huge down below." He froze, every muscle in his body tensing. Was she insane? She just giggled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Don't worry," her lips brushing his earlobe. "I've got something you'll like even more coming up." Meanwhile, the crown prince's age shifted uncomfortably. "Your Highness," he murmured, "what happens next might be a little too inappropriate public viewing. Please grant the Priska family a bit of dignity." Butts watched, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. "You put it like that, how could I say no?" However, his inner thoughts were far less accommodating. A woman with no background like that, she should never show her face in the palace again. Fydrik finally pulled away, his face a mask of cold indifference as he gave a slight bow to the prince. "I'll keep your advice in mind, Your Highness." As they walked away, Lars's pleasant smile vanished, replaced by a chilling glare. He turned to his aide, his voice low and sharp. "Shall we keep tailing the Priska family?" The aide nodded. Keep your eyes on them." Back at the Priska estate, the tension of the evening finally melted away. Alice let out a long, satisfied sigh, taking a delicate sip of tea. Refreshing. She'd back basking in her small victory, but her peace was short-lived. Fydrik's voice cut through the air, cold as ice. "Lady Alice, there's something I need you to understand. When we're outside, especially so intimately, don't touch me like that." She looked at him, genuinely bewildered. "Why not?" His face was a thundercloud. "Because I don't like it, and as a princess, you really should carry yourself with a bit more dignity." For a moment, she just stared, her mouth agape in disbelief. And then, she began laughing, a joyous, unrestrained sound that echoed in the silent room. "Seriously? You're that uptight?" She smirked, a dangerous light in her eyes. "I should be the one complaining, not you, Duke. The victim hasn't said a word, but the one who got the most out of it is already setting rules." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Don't forget who started all this. If you hadn't barged into the sacred forest, we wouldn't be in this mess." Her smile widened. "Oh, so the Duke is that easy to rattle?" Her fingers ghosted over his. A teasing, deliberate touch. "What about this?" His breath hitched. Her smirk was pure wickedness. Could it be? The Duke feels I've tainted his virtue? He snatched his hand back as if burned, his voice cracking with outrage. "That's enough, Lady Alice. I'm not your plaything." Her eyes widened in mock innocence. Such a strong reaction. "Don't tell me you're still a virgin." "Didn't think you'd be this pure, Duke." "That's actually kind of adorable." He was utterly speechless. "What are you?" She cut him off, her playful demeanor vanishing in an instant, replaced by something dark and intense. "What am I?" And with a sudden, forceful shove, she sent him tumbling backward. He landed on the bed with a soft thud, stunned. She scoffed. "You're gonna wake up later and complain I hugged you again, or maybe," she waved a dismissive hand. "Forget it!" Later that night, Fydrik lay unconscious, his breathing shallow. The physician, Thomas, stood over him, his face grim. "How's he doing?" The butler asked anxiously. The old man shook his head, cleaning his spectacles. "It's not physical. I think the curse is starting to take hold. The Duke is already 28. If we can't find a way to break it soon," he trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. "He may not have much time left. We've done all we can." The physician sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "The rest is up to fate." Just outside the door, hidden in the shadows, Alice listened, her heart pounding in her chest. A low groan pulled her from her thoughts. Fydrik was waking up. He felt a strange weight in his bed and slowly opened his eyes. Something was moving under the covers. "What the?" He ripped the blanket back, his voice a furious roar. "Alice? Who said you could be in my bed?" A head of golden hair popped up, followed by a brilliant, beaming smile. "Surprise," she chirped. He pointed a trembling finger toward the door. "Get out, you shouldn't be here." She simply stretched, yawning dramatically. "Wasn't planning on falling asleep, all right, but you were out for way too long." He sat up, his jaw clenched. "Your Highness, go back to your own room." She pouted, her eyes wide and innocent. "We did just sleep together. Don't be so cold." She moved closer, the space between them shrinking until she was leaning right over him, her expression suddenly serious. In one fluid motion, she straddled his lap, her hands on his shoulders, her gaze piercing. "Besides," she whispered, her voice a low, thrilling hum, "I came to save your life." "Are you sure you don't want to keep me around?" He stared at her, utterly baffled. "What?" Her eyes closed, and she began to chant, a soft golden light emanating from her body. "Oh, almighty God above, I beg you, grant me the power to heal pain." A swirling orb of ethereal blue and purple energy formed in her palm. "Help lost souls find hope once more." Fydrik's eyes widened in pure disbelief. What was this incredible power? The light washed over him, warm and soothing, and he felt a dark, cold energy being pulled from deep within his soul. Visions flooded his mind. He saw her radiant in a white gown, her angelic face reflected in his eyes. He saw her kneeling at a coronation, the high priest himself placing a crown upon her head as the people cheered. He heard the whispers of the crowd, realizing the rumors were true. She was the divine maiden. This was her power. The blue light faded, and he found himself staring up at her, breathless. She snapped her fingers in front of his face. "Snap out of it. Don't tell me you're frozen in shock." He swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. No, I'm overwhelmed by your power. He slowly got to his feet, his mind reeling, and gave her a deep, respectful bow. Thank you so much, Princess Alice. But then he stopped. Wait. He looked up, his violet eyes searching hers. What now? She asked. Duke, are you truly ready to stand by my side? A heavy silence filled the room. We now share secrets between us, she stated, her voice flat. You know my hidden identity as the Divine Maiden. Her eyes turned to chips of ice. If that ever leaks, I'll kill you myself. Without a moment's hesitation, Fydrick placed a hand over his heart, his gaze unwavering. I, Fydrick Priska, swear on my life and name if I ever betray Alice Patrick, may I suffer for eternity in every life. Her harsh expression softened into something unreadable. Is that it? Just don't betray me? You know that's not all I want. Then say it. A faint, knowing smile touched her lips. He understood. This was more than an alliance. It was a vow of fealty. His life was now tied to hers. Next time your curse flares up, she said, her tone businesslike once more as she stood by the window. There might not be anyone around to help you. She turned to him, a challenge in her eyes. But I believe you'll endure it, won't you, Duke? He met her gaze, resolve solidifying. As she reached for the door, his voice, firm and clear, stopped her. I promise, Princess Alice. She smiled. You're a smart one. Clapping her hands together, she looked every bit the triumphant princess. Pleasure doing business, Fydrick. She extended her hand. From now on, we rise and fall together. He took it, the pact sealed between them. A pleasure indeed, your highness. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, the princess's confident facade crumbled. She sagged against the cool wood, her entire body trembling. She stared at her shaking hand, a wave of exhaustion washing over her. I thought this power had no limits, she whispered to the empty hallway, sliding to the floor. But it seems the backlash depends on the severity of the wound. A weary but determined smile touched her lips. At least I fooled Fydrick. Now my plan can finally move forward. She ran a hand through her long, golden hair, her mind already racing. Lying in bed later, she stared into the darkness. If I want to turn the tables in this situation stacked against me, I need allies, I need power. And I need to be ruthless. Elsewhere, Crown Prince Lyres stewed in his own thoughts. That Fydrick Priska, what a tough bastard. He mused that he'd managed to avoid the terrible beginning from the original story. This new path was uncertain. This version of Lyres might not be as easy to handle as the one he knew. He knew he had to avoid the other so-called male leads. But his first priority was clear. He had to find the command seal. He closed his eyes, his mind racing. The pearl's gaze, where could it be? For a fleeting moment, a happy memory surfaced Alice as a little girl, laughing on a swing pushed by her father. He was a good man, but the sweet memory was violently torn apart by a darker one. A shattered picture frame on a filthy floor. A man's voice, thick with rage and alcohol, screaming, "You filthy bitch, you think you're better than me?" The sound of a bottle striking flesh. A woman's pleas. "No, please stop hitting me." And then the monster's final words, "This is all your fault. Go die." A little girl's terrified sobs echoed in the darkness. Mom. Alice shot up in bed, gasping for air. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Even after reincarnating, I'm still having these dreams, so damn annoying. She fell back against the pillows, trying to push the horror away. In his own room, Fydrick stood shirtless by the window, the moonlight illuminating the brutal scars that crisscrossed his back. He took a small vial of potion and carefully applied it to a fresh wound on his chest, his eyes filled with a pain that had nothing to do with the physical injury. He dressed slowly, his movements heavy with unspoken burdens. A few days later, Fydrick found himself enduring another meeting with the Crown Prince's aide. "His Royal Highness is hoping you'll join the Royal Knights as the new commander," the aide chirped, gesture overflowing with jewels. Fydrick, a slow sip of his tea, about to deliver a polite but firm refusal. "Sorry, I." His eyes flickered with annoyance, but before he could speak, a pair of elegant shoes stepped into his line of sight. He looked up as Alice, standing behind the aide with a wickedly sweet smile. Her lips formed too silent. "Say yes." Their eyes locked, a silent battle of wills passing between them. She tilted her head, her smile becoming just a little more threatening. Fydrick sighed internally. He turned back to the beaming aide. "Fydrick deeply appreciates His Highness Lyre's generous offer. I'll give it some thought. Please allow me a few more days." As soon as the aide scurried away, Fydrick's expression turned to stone. He gestured at the treasure chest with disgust. "Get this trash out of here." But as the butler moved to obey, Alice stepped forward. "That's a lot of money," she said cheerfully, scooping up the chest. "If you don't want it, I'll take it." Fydrick stared at her, his jaw tight. "The position," he said, his voice dangerously low, "was the first step of your plan, Your Highness." Her fingers, cool and delicate, ghosted over the pulse in his neck. A wicked glint danced in her eyes as her voice, a silken whisper, cut through the quiet room. "Duke," she purred, "you really don't know how to keep your cool, do you?" Fydrick's jaw clenched, a muscle ching in his cheek as he stared straight ahead, refusing to meet her gaze. This woman, this infuriating, unpredictable woman, how did she always manage to get under his skin? Alice's voice dripped with condescending knowledge as she continued her assault. "You know exactly what kind of man Lyres is. His ambition, it's a fire that will never stop burning." Fydrick's composure finally cracked. He spun around, his eyes blazing with a cold fury. "Your Highness," he spat, "the title and accusation. You are gambling with the future." But Alice just smiled, a serene, knowing look on her face. Her words sharp, each one a perfectly aimed dart. You don't want your family dragged into war again, do you? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Then what was the point of the oath you swore? She pressed, her voice with mockery. Was that just empty talk? So this is the Great Briska family's honor? Her final words were a sneer. Seems overrated to me. The insult hit its mark. A flash of pure, unadulterated rage crossed Friedrich's face, his purple eye widening in disbelief. The bandage over his other eye suddenly felt tight, a stark reminder of the very honor she was trampling on. He flinched, the fire in his eyes dimming to embers as he looked away. Your Highness, I'm sorry, he mumbled, his voice rough. That's not what I meant. A storm of unpleasant memories crashed over him, the scent of blood and the screams of the dying filling his senses. He saw himself, broken and bleeding on a battlefield littered with his comrades. Please believe me, he said, his voice raw with a pain she couldn't possibly understand. Briska's promises are never broken. Alice's expression softened, her game of cat and mouse paused for a moment of cold clarity. Like you said, her eyes locking with his. We're allies now, in this together. If I'm going to join the Royal Knights, I need to know your true intentions. She took a step closer, her voice dropping low. Or rather, what is our actual game plan? Her question was a demand, and he knew it. She then gestured to a small, you remember Sasha? Of course he did. They were powerful noble house, or so the public believed. She opened the box, revealing a collection of glittering jewels. They were more like the royal family's shadow, she explained, the ones who used to manage their private assets. Her words were a revelation, a peek behind a curtain he never knew existed. His gaze was drawn to a magnificent ring with 3 brilliant green gems, its light reflecting in his eye. I need certain forces to help me with some sensitive matters, Alice stated, her eyes glinting with ambition. You're one of them. The thought was bitter on his tongue. Pawn, he asked, his voice flat. Yes and no, she replied, holding the ring delicately between her fingers. Not everything can be done in broad daylight, especially not with my current status. She sat down, crossing her legs with an elegance that was both captivating and dangerous. Friedrich watched her, a tempest of emotions churning within him. Finally, he sank into a chair opposite her, the plush velvet doing little to ease his tension. He sighed in resignation. Go ahead, he said, his voice heavy. I'm listening. Her eyes narrowed with focus. There's something I need to retrieve from the palace. I don't know its exact location, so I need to scout around first, Friedrich burrowed. So my job is to help you find it? A small, dismissive smile touched her lips as she took a sip of tea. No, she said simply. This one's a royal secret, I'll find it myself. Friedrich was left speechless, his mouth slightly agape. It's impossible. All you need to do, she continued, her voice deceptively sweet as she leaned towards him, is get me officially assigned as your escort knight. Her smile widened, a dazzling, manipulative thing. That's not asking much, is it? I'm sure someone as capable as you can handle it. She winked, a single star seeming to sparkle beside her eye. Friedrich could only stare dumbfounded as she walked away. This woman, he thought with a groan, she really knows how to throw me under the bus. A few days later, in the grand throne room, Prince Lyres tapped his fingers impatiently on the arm of his golden throne. Why isn't Friedrich here yet? He grumbled. His aide bowed low. Your Highness, the Duke is already on his way. Just then, doors swung open. Friedrich entered, his expression as stoic as ever. Beside him walked a woman with striking silver hair pulled back in a high ponytail. Lyra's impatient frown turned into a welcoming smile. Friedrich, finally. Come on. No need to be so formal, he called out, gesturing for him to approach. But Friedrich remained rigid. Formality is never out of place, Your Highness. His cold response seemed to amuse the prince, whose eyes held a flicker of something unreadable. I didn't think you'd really accept the position, said, his tone cheerful. With you joining the kingdom's forces, we're even stronger than before. Friedrich offered stiff bow. You flatter me. It's an honor to serve the kingdom. Lyres beamed, utterly pleased with himself. Then his gaze shifted, landing on the unfamiliar woman standing silently behind the Duke. The woman behind you, he mused, she looks unfamiliar. She's a distant relative of mine and also my escort knight Anna, Friedrich explained smoothly, placing a hand on her shoulder. Anna bowed head respectfully. Greetings, Your Highness. Raise your head, Lyres commanded. As she lifted her gaze, a knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. Did he notice something after I drank the potion? This guy is the most cunning male lead. One tiny ripple and he'll pick up on it. Lyres studied her for a long moment before his attention returned to Friedrich. Friedrich bowed once more, his voice firm. I won't let you down, as they turned to leave. Lyres watched them go, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. That look in his eyes. Outside, they walked through the royal restricted grounds, the air thick with tension. The path was lined with guards in gleaming armor, their presence a silent warning. Alice, now Anna, took in every detail, her mind racing. They approached the royal altar, a magnificent structure guarded by even more soldiers. The royal altar is now a high-security zone, Friedrich explained in a low voice, guarded by elite royal sentries. The guards snapped to attention, their salutes crisp. Yes, sir, they barked in unison. That bastard liars, she thought, her eyes narrowing. He moved fast and already posted guards here. I need to come up with a plan to get rid of them. Suddenly, the stately procession of a royal carriage interrupted the silence, pulling up to the palace entrance. A guard rushed forward, shouting for everyone to make way. Her Highness, Princess Lilith, is approaching. The guards crossed their spears, blocking Fidrik's path. Lilith Mishuka, Lyrus's fiancée. Her heart skipped a beat. She wasn't supposed to show up for another 2 years. What is she doing here already? A beautiful woman in a shimmering gown stepped out of the carriage, a crown sparkling in her hair. The sight of her sent a phantom chill down Alice's spine, dragging forth a memory she had tried to bury. The memory was then cold. She was on her knees, Lilith's foot pressing hard against her chin, forcing her head up. So, you're Alice? Lilith's voice was a venomous whisper. Didn't the so-called jewel princess of Sadilo to be this underwhelming? A brutal kick sent her sprawling to the floor. Her body aching with humiliation, Lilith loomed over her, her eyes filled with cruel contempt. Let me give you a warning, little toy. Don't even dream about things you shouldn't. Her pressed into Alice's back, pinning her to the cold stone. Do you hear me? Say something. A broken whisper escaped her lips. I understood. Lilith scoffed and turned away, her voice ringing with disgust as she addressed a servant. Get this place cleaned up with incense. It reeks of trash. She left the original Alice lying there, a discarded thing on the opulent carpet. Back in the present, Anna watched as Lilith was escorted by guards. A slow, dangerous smirk spread across her face. Maybe I can take this chance to get some revenge for the original me. Wow, I'm such a good person. Fidrik caught her expression and recoiled slightly. Fed, your expression is disgusting, quipped, her internal monologue a stark contrast to her playful tone. He shot her. Don't forget who you are now. Get back to your patrol. She pouted, turning away from him. This is how you treat someone who saved your life, cold-blooded. Inside the palace, Prince Lyres greeted his fiancée. Lilith, long time no see, he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. You've had a tiring journey, go rest in the room we've prepared for you. But Lilith clung to his arm. No, you haven't come to see me in so long. I want to spend more time with you. He looked flustered, trying to pull away. I still have official duties. An aide chose that moment to interrupt. Your Highness, there's news from the restricted grounds. Lyres seized the opportunity. Sorry, Lilith. I have to take care of something. I'll come back to see you later. Meanwhile, Anna was putting her plan into action. A guard approached her, relaying an order to report to the palace, but Anna stood her ground. His Highness told us to secure the restricted grounds, she argued coolly. Princess Lilith is his fiancée. If something happens, will you take the blame? The guard faltered, and she pressed her advantage. Understood, he finally conceded. We'll head there now. As they marched away, Anna smirked to herself. Sorry, Fud, I'll just borrow your name for a bit. This is... Time to summon the magic circle. Who's there? A sharp voice cut through the air. Her blood ran cold. She spun around to see Prince Lyres and his attendant approaching. Why is he here all of a sudden? Thinking fast, she dropped to one knee. Knight Anna, reporting to Crown Prince. Lied her suspiciously. At a time like this, shouldn't Knight Anna be on patrol? What are you doing here? She launched into a well-rehearsed lie. I heard your fiancé was visiting today and worried, so I reassigned forces to the palace. But the restricted grounds left unguarded, so I patrolled here myself. His expression was unreadable. You're cautious, I'll give you that. But patrolling inside the restricted grounds itself. He leaned in closer, his voice a low murmur. You don't look scared at all, that's interesting. Do you know that trespassing in the restricted grounds is punishable by death? She feigned terror, her voice trembling. Your Highness, please don't kill me. I'll do anything to make up for my ignorance. Sly's smile touched his lips. Then become my personal knight. Let's see how sincere you really are. At that exact moment, Fidrik appeared. Perfect timing, Lyres thought, his smile widening. I was just thinking of appointing Knight Anna as my personal guard. Fidrik immediately stepped forward, his expression grave. Your Highness, to be recognized by you is Anna's greatest honor. But your fiancée, Princess Lilith, has already arrived at the palace. And Anna's a female knight. I'm worried the princess might misunderstand. Lyres chuckled. You make a fair point. Lilith does have a jealous streak. How about this then? His eyes gleamed. Appointing Anna as your royal guard, she can still protect you without causing any unnecessary misunderstandings with Princess Lilith. Good idea. Report to palace tomorrow, Knight Anna. I have high hopes for you. He then shot Fidrik a pointed look. Fed, I'm letting this slide because she is your distant relative. You better not be the one who messed up. Fidrik could only bow his head in submission. Yes, your Highness. As Lyres walked away, leaving them by the serene palace waters, Fidrik's composure finally shattered. He turned on her, his voice tight with fury. You acted recklessly. She just offered him a sheepish smile. Sorry, I just wanted to find the token as quickly as possible. He let out a long, weary sigh. What's done is done. Nothing we say now will change it. When we get back, I'll give you a file read it over first. Later that night, back in her room, Chengya collapsed onto her bed, every muscle screaming with exhaustion. Oof, I'm exhausted. She stared at the canopy above her, her heart still hammering in her chest. Today was way too close. I almost got exposed. Good thing Fide showed up in time. If not, incarnation's not all it's cracked up to be. The world seemed to dissolve around her, the feeling of sinking into deep, dark water overwhelming her senses. Voices whispered her name. Chengya. She found herself staring into a grand, ornate mirror, but the face looking back wasn't her own. It was a girl with the same blonde hair, but her eyes were wide with fear and anger. It was the original Alice. Alice. Chengya breathed, stunned. The reflection's lips moved, her voice echoing with fury. What the hell did you do? You made such a mess of things so unladylike. Chengya stared, her own reflection looking back at her in shock. Huh? Me? She thought, bewildered. Do you even realize what's going on? You summoned me. The original Alice crossed her arms, her expression a thunderous scowl. If you don't want this mess, then send me back. Still. Chengya began, but the spirit cut her off. If you still want revenge, then you'll listen to me. By the way, where Father hid the command token, a flicker of a memory, a man's profile, flashed before Chengya's eyes. Where is it? She asked, leaning closer to the mirror. The original Alice stared back, her expression intense, on the verge of revealing the world-changing secret. A blinding flash of light pierced through the darkness of her dream, so brilliant it felt like staring directly into the sun. A woman's voice echoed in her mind, describing it as the brightest place imaginable. But just as quickly, the light receded, leaving only the inky black of unconsciousness. Her eyes snapped open, a gasp escaping her lips as she shot up in bed. Her heart hammered against her ribs. That dream? Was that it? Just one bright spot? And then... Bitter taste filled her mouth. Damn it. That woman... She played me. A soft knock from the door, a maid's voice calling for Her Highness to come downstairs. With a sigh of resignation, she slid out of bed, her mind already racing. Downstairs, the air was thick with tension. The Duke sat at the head of the table, his expression as cold and unforgiving as a winter morning. His voice cut through the silence, sharp and critical, as he demanded to know why she was only showing up now. He reminded her that a soldier should have a sense of time and discipline. But Arrow simply lifted her fork, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across her lips. That soldier, she thought, is long gone. In her place is Alice. She met his icy gaze, her own eyeing with mischief. A lady, she declared, needs to get her beauty sleep. After all, he wouldn't want people gossiping about his precious sister, would he, Duke? His purple eyes narrowed, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. For a second, a memory flashed through her mind, the glint of armor, the weight of a royal scepter. A past she fought so hard to escape. She pushed the thought away, focusing on the meal before her, the clink of her fork against the plate the only sound between them. The Duke watched her, a puzzled expression on his face as she seemed lost in her own world. He called her name, Princess Arrows, asking if she was even listening. She blinked, her cheerful mask snapping back into place as she assured him. He spoke of Prince Lyres, warning her that he wouldn't be easy to deal with, that they needed to be careful. He finished his meal and stood, announcing he would wait in the carriage. She watched him go, her smile fading. We're cooperating, yes, but I can't abandon my family for this. A new resolve hardened in her eyes. If this is how it has to be, then I have no choice. An image of a swirling, magical potion flashed in her mind, a last resort she hoped she wouldn't have to use. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Prince Lyres slouched on his throne, the very picture of bored royalty. A subordinate knelt before him delivering a report. His older brothers were still busy fighting each other, no threat there. But what of the saintess? The man stammered that there were no new leads. The prince's boredom instantly morphed into irritation. Tish, he clicked his tongue, his emerald eyes flashing with contempt. How could they not handle such a simple task? He was a fallen princess, he sneered. Just how far could she have run? His gaze fell upon a wanted poster on the table, the portrait of a beautiful blonde woman. Princess Alice. He leaned closer, a strange sense of familiarity washing over him. Those eyes, they looked awfully familiar. Just then, a clear voice announced her. A woman with striking silver hair and a crisp blue knight's uniform stood at the entrance, introducing herself as Knight Anna, the new royal guard assigned to Prince Lyres. The palace guards, seemingly expecting her, immediately granted her entry. The click-clack of her heeled boots echoed through the grand hall as she approached the throne. Respectfully wishing His Highness a good day. Lyres looked up, and as their eyes met, the feeling of familiarity hit him again, stronger this time. It was her. The familiar feeling came from her. The wanted poster lay on the table between them, a silent accusation. Anna's heart skipped a beat. Why is he staring at me like that? The prince's voice was low and commanding as he ordered everyone else out of the room. Anna braced herself. Whatever was coming, she would face it. He rose from his throne and slowly approached her, stopping just inches away. His voice was a seductive whisper as he asked if anyone had ever told her that her eyes were beautiful. He leaned in closer, his gaze intense. They look just like sapphires, he murmured. Her mind raced. He's trying to fish something out of me. She kept her composure, offering a polite smile and a well-rehearsed lie. Her mother, she explained, was from the northern Gusti tribe, where most people have blue eyes. By that logic, she quipped, the Gusti plains must be full of sapphires, right? He chuckled, amused by her wit. All right then, he challenged, teach me something. She smiled, her eyes glinting, and spoke a phrase in a foreign tongue. Tell him it meant, because you are the king of the world. It is an honor, she continued, to serve someone as wise and powerful as you. He burst out laughing, clearly delighted by the flattery. Is this guy really fishing for compliments right now? Barely suppressing an eye roll. His amusement faded as quickly as it came. If that's the case, said, his tone shifting back to business, then I have a task for you. He gestured for her to open a scroll he was holding. She unrolled it, and her blood ran cold. It was the wanted poster. For Princess Alice, her own face stared back at her. Your mission, the prince stated, is to find her. He brought his face close to hers, his fingers tracing the side of her face as he pointed out the resemblance. Look. Your eyes share the same mesmerizing hue. It would be a knight's honor to ease your burdens. Her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. He gripped her chin, forcing her to look at him. His smile gone, replaced by a chilling intensity. Good, he whispered. Don't let me down. He leaned in, his breasting her ear as he added a final terrifying threat. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a shame if those beautiful eyes never saw anything again? The implication was clear, fail, and you'll be blinded. She didn't flinch. Yes, your highness, she said, her voice like steel. I won't let you down. He released her and turned away, dismissing her with a wave. She bowed, turned, and walked out of the throne room on legs that felt like jelly. The doors closed behind her, and she saw the Duke waiting patiently. She walked past him, each step heavy, not stopping until she was a safe distance away. The moment she was alone, the facade shattered. Her hand flew to her chest, her knuckles white as she gripped her uniform. Disgusting bastard. How dare he threaten her like that? A burning rage consumed her. I want to get back at him right now, she seethed, her eyes blazing. But she forced the anger down, balling her fists at her sides. It's not the right time. Later, she was patrolling the Imperial Palace garden, 2 guards trailing behind her. They warned her to be on alert, as Princess Liliana of the Astia Empire was in residence. As if on cue, a shrill voice cut through the peaceful afternoon. I told you to stay away from here. Anna looked over to see Princess Liliana herself bullying a younger girl by a fountain. Oh, not her again, Anna thought with a sigh. Who is she picking on this time? The girl, a princess named Angelina, was on the ground, tears streaming down her face as she insisted it was all a misunderstanding. But Liliana was relentless, spewing venomous words about Angelina's low-born mother and her tainted blood. Angelina swore she had no interest in Prince Leas, promising she would never get in her sister's way. Anna watched, a strange feeling prickling at her. That name? She wasn't in the novel. Did my arrival change the story? Is she an enemy, ally? Liliana's cruelty reached a new level. Really? Then go ahead, throw yourself into the lake. If you do that, I'll believe you're innocent. Angelina stared at the cold water, trembling with fear. Seeing her hesitation, Liliana ordered her maid to help her. The maid grabbed the terrified princess, and with a cruel shove sent her tumbling into the lake. Angelina screamed, flailing in the water, begging for her sister to save her. Liliana simply watched, her face a mask of cold satisfaction. Just die already, she whispered. Anna couldn't watch any longer. As Angelina's hand slipped beneath the waves, she broke into a run and dove into the icy water without a second's hesitation. As the cold enveloped her, a single, terrifying thought flashed through her mind. Does I return to my original form in the water? But she pushed through the fear, grabbing the drowning princess and pulling her to the surface. They broke through the water, coughing and gasping for air. Angelina clung to her, whispering a weak thank you. But their ordeal wasn't over. Liliana was screeching from the edge of the lake, enraged. Who do you think you are interfering? She shrieked. Dripping wet but standing tall, looked her dead in the eye. Your Highness, she said, her voice firm. It is a knight's duty to protect the people. Liliana's face twisted into a malicious smirk. You're not getting away with this, she hissed. What must I do to ease your anger? Anna asked, her patience wearing thin. Liliana's smile widened. You could die in her place. Elena gasped in horror. But Anna didn't even blink. That would be difficult, I'm afraid, she replied coolly. The royal knights only take orders from His Highness the Crown Prince. The insult hit its mark. Liliana's face contorted with rage. Suddenly, a calm voice cut through the tension. Your Highness, this is not the right time to start a war. Prince Lyres had arrived, the Duke at his side. Liliana's fury vanished in an instant, replaced by crocodile tears. She ran to Lyres, clinging to his arm and sobbing about how a mere knight had disrespected her, the future crown princess. What in the world is going on? The Duke wondered, completely bewildered. The prince, however, seemed to be enjoying the chaos. He held the princess, but his gaze was fixed on Anna, a sly, dangerous glint in his eyes. Causing trouble on your first Thursday, huh? He murmured, a smirk on his lips. He then turned to his aide. Fodor, he asked, his voice deceptively light. How should a knight be punished for misconduct? The crown prince's voice, smooth as polished marble, cut through the tense air. He turned his gaze to the stoic Duke Fodor, a casual yet chilling question. What punishment, he wondered aloud, should be given to a knight who commits a crime? Angelina's heart leaped into her throat. Her breath hitched, her eyes wide with terror. Punishment? Because of her? No, this couldn't be happening. Beside her, Sir Anna stood ramrod straight, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword, her gaze as cold and unyielding as the winter ice. Fodor's expression flickered. His voice was a low, steady murmur as he replied that it all depended on the severity of the crime. The method of punishment, he explained, would vary accordingly. For minor offenses, a simple fine or the returning of land would suffice. But for the truly serious crimes, his words painted a gruesome picture. The offender would be hung on a blood-soaked cross, left to suffer until they showed genuine remorse. But who could endure such agony? Most, he stated flatly, simply ended up dying. This, he concluded, is what happens when you don't know your place. A wicked smirk twisted Princess Liliana's lips as she shot a venomous glare at Anna. Perhaps next time, she hissed, you'll think carefully about how many you have before you dare to talk back. Angelina couldn't stay silent a moment longer. Her voice, though trembling, rang out with conviction. Sister, that's not true, she cried, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. The truth is, you're the one who... A furious glint ignited in Liliana's eyes. Was this little fool insane? How dare she? In a flash, Liliana's hand shot out, her finger to Angelina's wrist like talons. What are you saying, she snarled. Are you accusing your own sister of making up a story? She leaned in close, her voice a poisonous whisper meant only for Angelina's ears. Keep going, she dared, if you don't care what happens to your mother. The threat hung in the air, a suffocating weight. But something inside Angelina snapped. She wrenched her arm free, her eyes blazing with a newfound fire. Across the room, the Crown Prince watched the drama unfold, a faint, amused smile playing on his lips. To think such a beautiful one must be hung, he mused aloud. How very unfortunate. Anna's jaw tightened, her icy blue eyes narrowing into slits. But the prince continued, a cheerful lilt in his voice. Following the law and shakes aren't repeated. He turned to Liliana, asking if she didn't agree. Through gritted teeth, she spat out her assent. Then so be it. But Duke Fodor stepped forward, his expression grave. Your Majesty, he cautioned, if you wish to punish the knights, you must inform the order first. To do so without notice could cause the entire order to collapse. Liliana scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. Was he seriously suggesting that a few lowly knights could defy the royal will? The prince waved a dismissive hand. He was glad, he said with a pointed look at Fodor, that he'd appointed the duke as the knight commander, a subtle reminder of who was truly in charge. He then settled onto his throne, his green eyes gleaming with anticipation. Good, he said, gesturing to Anna. Then let's hear it. What exactly happened? Anna stepped forward, her posture perfect, her face an impassive mask. Her voice was calm, and even as she recounted the events. While on patrol, someone fell into the water, and she quickly saved them. She never imagined, she said, her gazy, that this would displease Her Highness Liliana. At the mention of her name, Liliana's face crumpled, and she began to sob into a handkerchief, the very picture of a wronged. Suddenly, the door burst open and a maid rushed in, pointing an accusing finger at Anna. Your Highness, she shrieked, everything that knight says is a lie. I can prove it. But Anna was unfazed. She continued, her voice unwavering, that she had simply prioritized safety of the palace in line with her duty as a knight. She didn't believe she had done anything wrong. She bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect, not submission. If you decide to punish me, she declared, I will accept it without complaint. After all, no tragedy befell the palace today. Angelina watched, tears welling in her eyes. This is all wrong. She couldn't let innocent person take the fall of her sister's cruelty. With a desperate cry, she lunged forward, falling to her knees before the throne. Your Highness, the Crown Prince, she pleaded, her voice with emotion. Please listen me. I'll tell you the whole truth. The prince gave a slight nod. Go ahead and speak. Taking a shaky breath, Angelina began her tale. I was painting in the garden, she said, her voice gaining strength with every word, when my sister suddenly forced me to jump into the lake. A memory flashed through her mind, Liliana's cruel command, the maid's rough hands. When I refused, she continued, her maid pushed me in, and Sir Anna, who was passing, saved me. Liliana's face contorted with rage. Angelina, can't you be quiet? She screamed. What nonsense are you spouting? But Angelina stood her ground, tears of righteous anger streaming down her face. I'm sorry, sister, she said, her voice trembling but firm. But I can't stand by and watch an innocent person be falsely accused. That's why I must reveal the truth, no matter what. Liliana scrambled to regain control, turning to the prince with a frantic look. Your Highness, Angelina is just rambling because she was so shaken by falling into the water. We should take her away before she embarrasses herself further. Her maid moved to grab Angelina, but Angelina shoved her hand away. She stared directly at her sister, her voice ringing with accusation. Don't you dare drive the one who saved my life into danger. Why are you trying to the Crown Prince's knight? The truth finally spilled out, raw and painful. This all started because of your jealousy in the first place. I've never once tried to ruin your engagement with His Highness. The Crown Prince watched her, his expression unreadable, a faint smile on his lips. Desperate, Angelina made a final, heartbreaking plea. If I'm such a thorn in your side, I'll gladly become a nun. The room plunged into silence. It was Fodor who broke it, his tone thoughtful. Saving someone without expecting anything in return? That's quite courageous. The prince nodded in agreement. Anna is right. A knight belonging to the order must show loyalty to only one person, he said, tapping his thankfully. And that person is me. He turned his gaze on Liliana, his smile vanishing. From what I've heard, Anna only did her duty. But I suppose that upset the princess? He paused, letting the words hang in the air. However, he continued, his voice taking on a harder edge, it's also true that Anna acted rudely toward the princess, so I shall issue a pay cut as her punishment. Liliana's eyes widened in fury. A pay cut? The prince then leaned toward her, susceptibly gentle. Liliana, it seems you're unfamiliar with the laws of the Hessian Empire. Why don't you try copying them down? His hand rested on her shoulder, a gesture that was anything but comforting. His smile returned, sharp and predatory. I believe that's something the future crown princess should easily be able to do. Liliana could only choke out an agreement, her pride shattered. The prince then turned to the kneeling Angelina. He stepped forward, his voice softening as he addressed her. Angelina, he murmured, gently, her chin up with his fingers. Someone with such beauty becoming a nun? Please abandon that thought. His eyes held hers, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. If you became a nun, it would break my heart. With that, he missed them all, telling them he had state matters to discuss with the duke. Once they were alone, the prince's demeanor shifted. Anna is more resolute than I expected, he commented, tapping a document on the table. Is her engagement settled? Fyodor's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. Not yet, he replied. A slow, intrigued smile spread across the prince's face. She's quite the intriguing woman. Outside in the gardens, Liliana was seething. She spotted Anna and stormed towards her. Hey, you! Stop right there, she shrieked. Anna turned, her expression calm. You've got some nerve, huh? Liliana sneered, using his highness without fear. Anna simply arched a brow. You flatter me. I was simply following my principles. The lack of fear in Anna's eyes only fueled Liliana's rage. Just wait, she threatened. I'll catch you and crush you properly. Anna's response was a cool, indifferent shrug. Do as you please. Infuriated, Liliana spun on her heel and stomped away, fuming. Angelina rushed to Anna's side, her face etched with worry. I'm sorry you got dragged into something so unpleasant. Because me, she whispered. Anna offered a small, reassuring smile. Please don't worry about it. Liliana and I were destined to be at odds from the start. Angelina looked confused. Destined to be at odds? But didn't they say just today? Later, in a carriage, Eloise leaned back against the plush cushions, nibbling on a pastry. Huh? Work is exhausting, she sighed. Fodor, sitting across from her, began to lecture her. Your Highness Eloise. Eloise cut him off with a sly grin. Are you about to say stop acting like a wild pony and bothering the Duke? That's what you were going to say, right? She knew him too well. She turned serious, her expression hardening. I get what you're trying to say, but what happened today wasn't because of me. He conceded with a small nod. You're right, earlier handled the situation well as a knight, but acting with caution is the only way to reduce danger. She playfully poked him in the chest. Are you going to keep being that rigid? I'm not some thoughtless person, you know. He swatted her hand away, a flicker of annoyance in his purple eyes. She just smiled, her own eyes sparkling with confidence. If we agreed to work together, then trust me a little. Fodor fell silent, his thoughts turning inward. When Liliana had first barged in, he'd been sure Eloise had done something foolish. She had saved a life and stood her ground against immense power. It was unexpected. It was dangerous, and more importantly, he'd seen the way Lias looked at her. The crown prince was starting to take an interest in Eloise. He had to find a way to keep her under control. A dark history shadowed Fyodor's family, a secret that bound them in chains of their own making. The curse of the Plitzka family, a cruel fate that claimed their lives before the age of 30. As this long-standing curse threatened to end their bloodline, Fyodor's father had sought out a master of alchemy, commissioning a powerful age potion. The potion was imbued with incredible magic. Once consumed, any vow had to be upheld until the moment of death. The Plitzka family, in their desperation, made their servants take this potion, using it to control their words, their actions, their very souls. It was a cruel method, but those who kept their vow lived in peace. But for those who dared to break their vow or reveal the family's secrets, a gruesome death awaited. This dark practice continued to this day, the very foundation upon which House Plitzka survived. Back in the present, Fodor and Alois sat across from each other at a dinner table. Would you care for a glass of wine? He asked, his voice smooth. Wine sounds great, she replied with a playful smile as a servant poured the rich, red liquid. It's unusual for someone as rigid as you to ask for a drink, she teased. Alcohol is perfect for making people lose control. His expression remained serious. Sometimes it's good to slow down and relax. He handed her a glass. Here, take this. He raised his own glass. To commemorate us boarding the same ship, he said, his eyes meeting hers. Be appropriate. Then his voice dropped, taking on a solemn tone. I, Fodor Plitzka, vow to remain with Eloise forever. Eloise let out a laugh, the sound echoing in the quiet room. That's quite the declaration over a glass of wine. He explained calmly that the crown prince was sharp, and they needed to present a united front. His gaze softened slightly. He admitted that her grace under pressure earlier had surprised him, making him realize they needed more honesty between them. He took a sip of his wine. I apologize for the prejudice I held against you. Eloise smiled, a genuine warm smile. Now that you've gone that far, I suppose I should respond in kind. She raised her glass. I, Eloise Sertiao, to support Fodor Plitzka and stand by him as our alliance forever. Her eyes glinted as she added a final condition, assuming, of course, that the Duke doesn't betray me first. She took a drink, leaving him to ponder her words. They clinked glasses, a silent agreement passing between them. Let's work well together. Eloise rose from her seat, feigning a delicate yawn. Since we made a toast, I'll head up first. A lady needs her beauty sleep, you know. Sleep well, watching her go. As she walked away, her friendly diminished, replaced by a cold determination. I don't know why he's suddenly being so friendly, she thought, but I'll keep my guard up and borrow his strength for now. Her true purpose burned within her like a hidden fire. Now that I've taken on Eloise's life, I need to build my power until I've completed my revenge. The next morning, Eloise, in her guise as Anna, was walking the sunlit gardens when she heard a cheerful voice call her name. It was Angelina, waving her over to a small table on a veranda. Good morning, Anna said with a smile. What were you doing? Angelina gestured to a large, deep blue crystal orb resting on a cushion. I was soaking in the sunlight with my crystal orb, she explained. It's divination. Her expression grew a little sad. I grew up alone. I had to do everything myself. An idea sparked in Anna's mind. Would you like me to read your fortune, if that's all right? I'd be honored. Her hands on the cool surface of the crystal, closing her eyes. Maybe I can find out where the gem is. Better to think of it indirectly rather than too straightforward, right? There's something I lost inside the palace, she murmured. Please show me where it is. The orb began to glow, runes lighting up across its surface. But Angelina frowned, her brow furrowed in concentration. That's odd. Why can't I see anything? Then, the darkness in the orb shattered, revealing fragmented images. A woman in a knight's uniform. Then, another woman, a noble lady with blonde hair, and a sorrowful expression. Angelina gasped, her eyes flying wide with a shocking realization. Two souls? Is it because has two souls inside her? Did you see anything? Anna asked, opening her eyes. Angelina quickly composed herself, hiding her astonishment. Well, the item you're looking for enclosed space, like a sealed room. I'm not sure about the details, but I know you'll find it. And soon, too. She smiled, a new understanding in her eyes. By the way, I also discovered something much more interesting, Your Highness. Anna laughed nervously. Your Highness. Why would you call me that? Quickly made her excuses to leave. But as she walked away, Angelina called out to her. Whoever you really are, you'll achieve what you seek. So don't worry. Anna paused, then smiled back. Haha, thank you. I'll be going then. Angelina watched her leave, a gentle smile on her face as she cradled the orb. So Anna is Eloise. His Highness the Crown Prince has no idea he's desperately searching for his right beside him. Her resolve hardened. But I'll keep Anna's secret. I would never betray the one who saved me. A knot of frustration tightened in Anna's chest as she strode through the sun-drenched gardens. Damn it, she hadn't expected Angelina to find out about her and the Duke. Her jaw clenched. That woman was a viper, but hopefully fear of the Duke would be enough to keep her mouth shut. She'll keep the secret, right? Still, the close call was a warning. I need to be much more careful from now on, she resolved, her steps quickening on the gravel path. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in the reflection of a glass door, and her heart gave a little lurch. It was the Crown Prince. He turned, his gaze locking onto hers, and a strange look crossed his face. He called out her name, his voice smooth and questioning, as if he was seeing her for the first time. Was something wrong? He noted that she didn't look well. Thinking fast, Anna forced a bright smile, a mask of pleasantry she had perfected over the years. A delicate hand rose to her chin in a gesture of feminine grace. The prince's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of something she couldn't quite decipher in their depths. He thought how beautiful she looked when she smiled. But then, the corner of his mouth curved into a sly, unsettling smirk. His thoughts took a dark, possessive turn, his pleasant facade melting away to reveal the predator beneath. Oh, he was really looking forward to seeing what she was like in bed. Before he could voice his vile thoughts, a sharp knock echoed from the door. The prince's expression smoothed over in an instant as he called for the person to come in, turning away from Anna as if she were a forgotten toy. A royal messenger entered, bowing deeply as he presented a sealed scroll. Your Highness, he announced, His Majesty has sent the letter of appointment. The letter declared Crown Prince Leas the new lord of the Dream territory of the Hessian Empire. Reward? No, this was an exile. His face contorted with rage, and with a guttural roar, he slammed the scroll down onto the desk. Ridiculous! This is absolutely ridiculous, his voice a venomous hiss. So the old man has no intention of ever handing me real power. The messenger flinched, trying to placate him with talk of patience and great accomplishments. But Lee isn't listening. He was trapped in his own storm of fury. Fool! He's afraid. He's afraid I'll take his place. His fists clenched, knuckles white, as he fought to control the tremor of rage shaking his entire body. Suddenly, his anger seemed to drain away, replaced by an icy calm. He turned to the trembling messenger, his voice dangerously low. Have you found out where Eloise is? The man shook his head, stammering that they hadn't found her yet. Liza's eyes fell upon a small, ornate bottle on his desk as he ordered the man to hurry up. A sudden, racking cough seized him, and he pressed a hand to his mouth, his body trembling with the force of it. Through gritted teeth, he issued a chilling threat. If you don't find her soon, all your heads will roll. He picked up the scroll again, hip curled in disgust. When the messenger dared to ask about the temple arrangements, Leah snapped. Why are you even asking? Just follow what's written in the letter. In the privacy of his own mind, his resentment festered. The old man's not dead yet, so I guess I have to do as he says. And so, the royal procession set off, parade of false piety and simmering rage making its way toward the temple. Walking alongside the Duke, Anna found herself smiling at the clear blue sky. Kalis noticed her rare moment of peace and asked what was so amusing. Her smile widened. "It's just nice," she replied cheekily. "Unlike the Duke, who only knows how to work, I enjoy a bit of romance. Don't scold me for that." He raised an eyebrow, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips, teasing her about slacking off in front of superior. "It's not slacking," she retorted with a laugh. "It's enjoying romance, while staying aware of my surroundings." She couldn't resist a little jab. You couldn't get out much back when you were a princess. His smile faded slightly as he warned her not to let her guard down, playfully threatening a pay cut. Her eyes lit up with mischief. "If you cut my paired, the Duke will have to take full responsibility for my living expenses." She leaned in closer, whispering conspiratorially, "I'd be grateful. I trust you completely, master." A faint blush crept up Kalis's neck, his ears turning a delightful shade of red. He turned away abruptly, muttering for her to shut up. Just then, another carriage rumbled into view. Inside, Angelina sat like a queen on a throne, her maids fussing around her. One of them confirmed that the item she'd requested had been prepared. A cruel, determined smile graced Angelina's lips. This time, she vowed silently, "I will make Prince Leah's fall head over heels for me." Their destination was the grand imposing temple of St. Perseus. Inside its hallowed halls, Bishop Andrew was warmly greeting a man with long dark hair and a serene expression, a man known as Sage Langs. The sage responded with practiced humility, claiming he was simply fulfilling the duties given to him by God. Then his eyes twinkled knowingly. "It seems you're expecting a guest," he remarked. Before the surprised bishop could reply, a guard's voice boomed through the sanctuary. "His Highness Leah's has arrived." The prince strode in, flanked by Angelina and Anna, and offered a polite greeting to the bishop. But Sage Langs wasn't looking at the prince. His gaze was fixed, sharp, and unnervingly intense on Anna. A strange energy pulsed through him. "I can feel divine power coming from that woman," he thought, his mind reeling. A vision flashed before his eyes, a beautiful blonde woman, hands clasped in prayer, bathed in holy light. "She reminds me of Eloise." Anna froze, her blood turning to ice. Her mind screamed. Langs is the third sub-male lead. He's already appeared. As if in response to his recognition, a warm light began to glow from the center of chest. "What is this? Has my identity been discovered? My body, it's reacting." At the same exact moment, Langs's eyes widened in disbelief. "This woman? No way, is she really Eloise?" He stepped forward, his expression unreadable, and introduced himself. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. "Stay calm. He's seeing, not Eloise's. He won't recognize me." She forced herself to remain composed as the prince shook the sage's hand, oblivious to the silent, crackling tension between his knight and the priest. As night fell, Kalis and Anna walked back through the quiet courtyard. He asked if her patrol had been uneventful. "Yes, it all went smoothly," she replied, though a deep weariness settled in her bones. She stifled a yawn. "Training isn't easy," she said. "I'll head to rest first." Kalis watched her go, a worried frown creasing his brow. As Anna walked down the long, moonlit corridor, her thoughts were a tangled mess. So problems to solve, and now a new, unpredictable sub-male lead appears. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the shadows caught her eye. A figure darted past a pillar. Her training kicked in instantly. "Who goes there?" Her voice sharp and clear. When the figure didn't stop, she broke into a run. "Stop right there." The chase was short. The intruder was impossibly fast, vanishing into the labyrinthine corridors. Anna leaned against the stone wall, panting for breath. Where did he go? A soft footstep sounded directly behind her. She whirled around, her expression annoyed. Standing there, bathed in the pale moonlight, was Sage Langs. A slow, unnerving smile spread across his face. "You're quite fearless," he murmured, his voice silken poison. Before she could react, he grabbed her arm, his grip like iron. He spun her around and pulled her back against chest, one hand wrapping around her throat, trapping her. Her own terrified face stared back at her from the polished surface of a nearby mirror. His lips brushed against her ear as he whispered, "But a cat that doesn't listen can never earn love." Meanwhile, in his Kalis listened to his aide's report. "The baptism will be conducted by Sage Langs." The aide confirmed it, adding that Bishop Andrew had recommended him. Kalis's expression darkened. "I didn't expect to meet Langs here." A chilling memory surfaced. He was a boy again at the temple with his father. He saw young Langs, his face twisted in a terrifying, ecstatic grin, brutally beating a small white rabbit to death with a golden chalice. The holy object stained crimson. Young Kalis gasped, stepping on a twig. Langs's head snapped up. "You caught me," he said, not a hint of remorse in his voice. He raised a bloody finger to his lips, a devilish smile playing on them. "You have to keep it a secret." Back in the present, Kalis dismissed his aide, his face a mask of grim determination. "Langs is dangerous," he thought, his fist clenching. "Eloise needs to be careful." Back in the dark corridor, Anna struggled against Langs's hold. "Do you lure me here just to say that?" He chuckled softly. No, I thought I knew you, but the name was different. It's none of your business. Let go of me, she growled, trying to pry his fingers from her throat. I'm on duty, so please refrain from any further rash actions. He really is a lunatic, just like in the novel. Fed up, she stomped hard on his foot. He grunted, his grip momentarily loosening, but he quickly recovered, shoving her back against a large mirror. Let's not act like this, he purred, his face far too close. We're both followers the same god. His eyes gleamed with a fanatical light. You're clearly mistaken about something. That was the last straw. In a flash of movement, her sword was out, the cold steel pressed against his throat. Why don't you tell me what you're really planning? She demanded. To her shock, he merely leaned back against the mirror, completely unfazed by the blade at his neck. It's all God's will, he said dreamily. The fact that we met like this today is proof. Don't insult God. His eyes bored into hers. But I really am curious about you, Knight Anna. I felt a very familiar soul from you. A predatory grin stretched his lips as he looked down at the sword. What is this now? I've never met you before, so don't play games with me, she warned, her voice deadly serious. That is if you still want to continue your life as a sage. She pressed the blade just a little harder. If you do this one more time, then the blade will graze your neck. With a final glare, she sheathed her sword and turned on her heel, leaving him alone in the darkness. Langs watched her go, a smirk playing on his lips. Hiding your soul with a magical potion, huh? He mused to the empty room. I wonder what secrets you're hiding. How interesting. Anna stormed through the halls, her mind racing with fear and disgust. He's as disgusting as the crown prince. I dare not get involved with him. I'm already exhausted from patrol. Maybe I should just kill him for real. She finally reached her room, throwing the door open, only to find Kalis waiting inside. You're finally back, he said, his tone unreadable. She slumped into a chair, too tired to be surprised. So, what did you want to discuss with me? He began to lecture her about schedules and returning late. But she cut him off. Are you nagging me about my job properly now? If that's the case, please go back. I just been a troll and I want to rest. His expression softened. Please keep your distance from Priest Langs, he said, his voice laced with genuine concern. He's a very dangerous man. Her interest was piqued. A slow, teasing smile across her face as she began to unbutton her uniform. What? Are you worried about something? Kalis's face flushed a brilliant red. Have you not received any etiquette training? Undressing in front of a man who's not your husband, she laughed. We've hugged before, what's there to embarrassed about? He insisted it was different, then repeated his question. Why did you suddenly tell me to be careful around Langs? She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling. Do you actually have feelings for me? He sputtered, insisting it was merely part of their alliance before telling her the disturbing story of Langs and the rabbit. So he was a creepy guy even as a kid, she thoughtfully. She nodded. All right, I'll be careful. Good, he said, visibly relieved. As he reached the door, he paused. And from now on, don't go out so late. That's an order from a superior to their subordinate. He's really into this role play, huh? She thought with a small smile. The next day, the baptism ceremony was held in the Grand Temple. Prince Lias knelt humbly as Sage Langs placed a hand on his head, intoning the holy words. All impurities of the flesh shall be cleansed, and even the sickness buried deep within your soul shall be purified. Later, in the purification room, Anna stood guard as the prince soaked in a large tub filled with holy water. Her shift was almost over. What was he up to now? Was he planning something shady? As if reading her thoughts, Leah spoke. Knight Anna, how is it working for the Imperial Knights? It's an honor to serve His Majesty, she replied, her voice flat and professional. He chuckled. A text answer. Come closer. She hesitated. I'm afraid that might be a bit inappropriate. His smile sharpened. That's an order. What trick's he pulling now? She wondered, but she obeyed, taking a cautious step forward. In an instant, his hand shot out of the water, grabbing her arm and yanking her forward. With a startled cry, she tumbled into the tub, water splashing everywhere. He pulled her against his bare chest, his voice a hot whisper in her ear. I'd like you to attend to me personally. Princess Liliana delicately traced her lips with a vibrant red, her eyes gleaming with ambition as she stared at her own reflection. This was it. The final touch. Soon, she thought, a triumphant playing on her lips. Soon she'll finally become His Majesty's woman. Her heart fluttered with a greedy, impatient rhythm. Your Majesty, please wait just a little longer. She picked up the tray, 2 glasses of crimson wine glinting under the light, her first offering to the man she would conquer. Meanwhile, in the purification chamber, the air was thick with steam and tension. Anna to back away, her voice strained as she insisted he mustn't act like this here. But Lias was relentless. He grabbed her arm, his grip like iron, his white-hot glare pinning her to the spot. A devilish smirk spread across his face as he lounged in the steaming water. Why are you rejecting me? He purred, his voice a low rumble. Didn't you say you'd do whatever it takes to get close to me? Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. This man, this insufferable prince. She yanked her arm back, her cheeks burning with indignation. You're mistaken, she spat. I only want to do my job well. His eyes narrowed. Your job? Is there an easier job than becoming my woman? A gasp escaped her lips. Your Majesty, she cried out, utterly appalled. There are many women in this world who strive not to rely on men, and I am one of them. I am not a woman Your Majesty can treat lightly. I am your knight escort. A splash echoed through the chamber as Lias rose from the water, droplets clinging to his sculpted torso. How interesting, he mused, his eyes gleaming with amusement. You've fully immersed yourself in the role of a hardworking knight. Very well, I'll play along. Anna's stomach clenched. She had to get out of there. It seems I'm interfering with your purification ritual, she said stiffly, turning on her heel. I'll take my leave now. But just her hand reached the door, his voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. Stop right there. Her fingers tightened on the handle. Are you disobeying my command? He was behind her in an instant, his warm, damp body pressing against her back, trapping her against the heavy door. You know you can't do that, he whispered, his breath hot against her ear. Her entire body went rigid. Let me go, she hissed, struggling against his hold. His arm snaked around her waist, pulling her impossibly closer. Can you feel it? I'm this fired up because of you. His body ground against hers. A clear and disgusting message. Anna's eyes blazed with fury. If you keep this up, she warned, her voice dangerously low, I won't hold back either. He chuckled, a low, mocking sound. That's not something a knight should say to their sovereign. His hand moved to her collar, his touch making her skin crawl. Don't be scared, I'll make it very pleasant for you. That was it. She'd had enough. With a furious roar, shoved him with all her might. Get away from me, he stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock, before crashing back into the tub with a massive splash. At that exact moment, the door opened. It was Liliana. Anna's mind raced. An opportunity. She immediately put on a mask of pure panic. Oh my God. His Majesty slipped in the bath. Someone, call for a physician. With a theatrical flourish, she accidentally slammed right into the stunned princess, sending the tray of wine flying. Watch where you're walking, Liliana shrieked as the red liquid soaked the front of her expensive gown. Anna bowed deeply, her face a perfect picture of frantic apology. Princess Liliana, I must apologize. I didn't bump into you on purpose. Something happened to Prince Leos. I need to fetch a physician immediately. I'm very sorry, but please wait just a moment. And with that, she bolted from the room, leaving chaos in her wake. Liliana, sputtering with rage, rushed to the tub. Oh my, your highness. Are you all right? As she leaned over to help him, the wine from her dress dripped into the bath, turning the holy water a sickening pink. Leos's face contorted with fury. Liliana, how dare you defile the holy water? I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose, she whimpered, clinging to his arm as he stood up. He shoved her away, his disgust palpable. This is not a place a princess should enter. Atomi, prepare the holy water again. As he stalked away, Liliana's expression twisted into a mask of pure, venomous obsession. Leos, she seethed internally, no one will ever take you away from me. Never. Anna walked briskly through the palace halls, her heart still pounding from the encounter. Suddenly, a hand caught her arm. Anna? It was Kane. He looked at her pale face, his own expression filled with concern. What's going on? She tried to brush it off. It's nothing, I'll be going now. But he wouldn't let go. No, something's wrong. Why are you acting like this? Seeing the genuine worry in his eyes, the dam broke. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Well, actually, Leah's. He tried to assault me in the purification room. I barely managed to push him away at the end. The change in Kane was instantaneous. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by a terrifying, murderous rage. I'm sorry for making you recall something you'd rather forget, he said, his voice deceptively calm. Then, I'll kill that bastard. He turned to leave, but Anna grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with panic. No! Please calm down. Now is not the right time. I don't care, he snarled, his body trembling with fury. I won't let this go. I've held back enough. He needs to feel the consequences. She held tighter, pleading with him. I understand how you feel, but we need to approach this carefully. He looked down at her. The inferno in his owly banking. I know, he finally conceded, his voice tight with suppressed violence. As they walked away, a dark figure watched from the shadows. So her name was Anna, he mused, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. A new... On the board, he wondered, is that spirit's name also Anna? The thought sent a delicious shiver down his spine. Figuring out a secret always gives me a thrill. But the story is progressing too slowly. He needed to give things a little push. And are you ready to accept the challenge? Back in her room, Anna was at her wit's end. No matter how much I think, it always ends in a dending. Her frantic scribbles showed her being stabbed, poisoned, and executed. Could just find the gem that would move the knights. Tish! What's the point of knowing the whole plot? Her pen snapped in her hand. The original didn't even explain how she used her power. Back then, I was just a fish on the chopping board. A blinding golden light suddenly filled the room. A shimmering figure appeared before her. Anna stared, her eyes wide with disbelief. Eloise? I thought you only appeared in my dreams. The spirit of the original princess smiled gently. My soul recovered a little, so I am able to show up like this. She looked at Anna with curious, knowing eyes. Even though I took over your body, your soul must not have disappeared. I was curious how far you'd endure. Anna scoffed, leaning forward. Then at least give me a hint while you're here. Tell me where the gem is. But Eloise just shook her head sadly. Sorry, but I don't know either. What? Anna shot to her feet, slamming her hands on the desk. That's ridiculous. You were the king's only child. How can you not know? Father believed that as long as he was alive, there'd never be a reason for me to touch that gem, Eloise explained, her voice tinged with sorrow. So he was helpless in the face of an unannounced war, and before he could tell me where it was. But she added, drifting closer, I'll leave you with this one thing. She reached out a shimmering hand and pointed to the tattoo on Anna's chest. That engraving will point the way for you. What? Say it in a way I can understand. Anna cried out, but the spirit was already fading, dissolving into motes of golden light. Later, Anna found Kane in the parlor, holding the very paper she had been scribbling her death scenarios on. "What are you doing?" she demanded, trying to snatch it back. He held it at her reach and casually dropped it into a candle flame. "As your ally, I oppose any reckless plans. Is this why you wanted an alliance with me?" Her voice sharp with suspicion. "I'm not trying to get in your way," he said, his gaze steady. "I want to help, as long as it's not dangerous." He'd held out a small, ornate object. "Take this. This is the seal of the Knight Commander. I'll take a day off tomorrow pretending I'm unwell. Lead the patrol in my place." Anna was stunned into silence. "You want me to stand guard at the purification chamber for you?" "What is gets mad?" Kane's expression was resolute. "We're allies now. A comrade's safety comes first." He turned and walked away, leaving Anna staring after him, completely bewildered. "Geez, you're being so nice it's throwing me off." The next day, behind the temple, the patrol began. Anna stood before her knights, feeling a strange sense of peace. "Just not seeing Lias makes me feel like I'm flying," she thought with a small smile. Her moment of tranquility was shattered by a smooth voice. "So we meet again. It's been a while." She whirled around to see the mysterious dark-haired man, the Demon King, holding a basket of fresh herbs. "What the?" He smiled serenely. "Lately, Bishop Andrew hasn't been able to rest properly, so I came here to make him some herbal tea that's good for calming the body and mind." "I'm not a bad person, Sir Anna. How do you know my name?" she asked, her hand instinctively going to the hilt of her sword. He simply chuckled. "It's not that hard to find out someone's name. Would you like to have a cup of tea with me?" "Sorry, I'm on duty," she said curtly, turning to leave. "Just a moment." A hand landed on her shoulder. "Where do you think you're grabbing?" She snapped, but it was too late. He blew a shimmering gold dust right into her face. Her vision swam, her body suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. She collapsed, but he caught her easily, cradling her in his arms. "Falling asleep just like that. Must be some effective herbs," he murmured, a triumphant smile on his lips. He lifted her into his arms and walked away into the shade of the trees. "Sleep well, Anna." The sky tore open with a furious shriek of thunder, and jagged veins of lightning illuminated the heavens. Rain fell in punishing sheets against the towering cathedral, each drop a cold whisper against the Gothic windows. Inside, shielded from the storm, hushed voices echoed through the hallowed halls. Two priests, cloaked in piety, spoke of unholy things. The saint apostle, they whispered, wished to become one with the legendary saintess tonight. For the country to receive the blessings of God, a new child of God was needed. But the whispers venomous, laced with scandalous rumor. One priest leaned in, his voice dropping lower. He'd heard the saintess had been with many, and he hissed. Didn't the apostle care? His companion simply scoffed. If it was him, he reasoned, he could purify even the saintess's soul. With their wicked words hanging in the air, they walked away, leaving the chilling implication behind. And inside the grand chamber, a horrifying tableau was set. There, in the center of a baptismal font, stood a figure of ethereal beauty. A man with flowing golden hair, bound to a cross by thorny vines, his body draped in a mere whisper of white cloth. The crowd watched, their faces a mixture of awe and fervent devotion. Oh, holy God, they murmured, their hands clasped in prayer. They begged for salvation for this holy figure to save their nation, to save them from their sins. A ripple of excitement shot through the room. He was here. The Saint Apostle was finally revealing himself. A man with long, dark hair and piercing eyes stepped forward, his ornate robe sweeping the ground as he moved with an unnerving grace. His voice was a silken command that silenced every breath in the room. Not a single noise was to be heard during the ritual tonight. He stopped before the cross, his gaze fixed on the bound saintess. "Saintess, are you ready?" he asked, a cruel smile playing on his lips. But he didn't wait for an answer. "Well, it doesn't matter if you're not." With a deliberate, almost mocking slowness, he stepped into the water, his voice a low purr as he promised to guide the saintess himself. He looked upon the silent, beautiful figure, a flicker of something dark in his eyes. "You're nice and quiet, like a true saintess," he praised, his hand reaching out to touch the thorny vines. Then his smile widened, a predator's grin. "Before we begin the ritual," he announced to the silent onlookers, "I'll purify your body thoroughly." He tore the cloth away, leaving the saintess exposed in the holy water. "Shall we begin now?" he asked, his voice dripping with sinister intent. He declared they would move to another place, and with a shocking display of strength, he lifted the saintess from the cross and carried the limp body from the font. He laid the saintess down, and the figure's voice, fragile and trembling, finally broke the silence. "God will never forgive you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The apostle only chuckled, leaning closer. "Please, don't say such things," he chided gently. "I'm someone who is blessed by himself." His words were a chilling mockery of the sacred. "To be able to bear a child of God," he began, his face a mask of twisted piety. "Do you even realize how great of an honor that is?" He turned to the crowd, his voice booming through the cathedral. "Now, Let's all witness it clearly. Tonight, a child of God will be born. The crowd watched enraptured as he proclaimed them all witnesses to this holy act. A single tear escaped the saintess's eye, a silent testament to the horror unfolding, as the devout followers bowed their heads in prayer, oblivious to the sacrilege. The apostle's back was to them, a dark silhouette against the holy light, as the scene faded into an abyss of despair. A groan escaped her lips as consciousness returned. Her wrists ached, bound tightly by coarse rope. A smooth, condescending voice cut through the haze. "So you're awake." Her eyes snapped open to see the apostle leaning over her, a smug look on his face. "What did he do to me?" Panic clawed at her throat. She thrashed against her voice a raw scream. "You perverted bastard! What the hell did you do to me?" A lazy smile played on his lips as he swirled a glass of dark red wine. "I only gave you a mild drug," he purred, his voice dripping with false concern. "Something to make it easier to get you excited. Can't you already feel it?" Her blood ran cold, the absolute audacity. "You dared to touch the crowns night," she spat, her eyes blazing with fury. "Once this gets out, not only your status as apostle, but your life will be at risk." But he just chuckled, a low, unnerving sound. "I don't care," he replied, taking a sip of his wine. "Spending one moment with you before I die doesn't sound bad." Her breath hitched. "You're insane," she whispered, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. He leaned in closer, his smile widening into a predatory grin. "That's right," he confirmed. "From now on, I plan to take off my mask and have a thrilling time with you." With flick of his wrist, he sent the wine glass against her chest, the crimson liquid splashing across her uniform like a fresh wound. A strange energy pulsed through her, a dizzying wave of magic. Her body, it was changing. Her hair lengthened, turning a brilliant gold, her features softening. The disguise was gone, he knew. How could he possibly know? He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. "So, you should return to him as well, shouldn't you? Think of it as the price for keeping your secret." Her mind reeled. "Since when did you know?" she demanded, her voice trembling. He smirked, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Who knows? Probably from the very first moment I saw you," he mused. "I know that there's another soul inside your body, not just Eloy's." He explained how the drug he'd used was impressive, but pointless the moment it touched water. His hand moved to her chest, a sickeningly gentle touch. "And you? There were only rumors. But I didn't expect you to have real holy power," he murmured. "Now that I can feel it here, you really are a saintess." A triumphant smile spread across his face. "Looks like I've uncovered 2 secrets." He leaned in, his breath hot against her ear. "If you're truly a saintess, then you should naturally bear the child of God." Her mind flashed back to the horrifying ritual, to the crowd's blind prayers, to the apostle's twisted face, to her own powerlessness. This couldn't be happening. She was trapped. He saw the fear in her eyes and leaned back, his expression turning sly. "So, will you make a deal with me?" He moved closer again, his hand stroking her hair. "If you don't trust me, I can swear before God." He pulled her into his arms, his grip like iron. She whimpered, her strength failing her. His condescending voice was a poison in her ear. "Now you're trembling with fear," he mocked. "This is starting to get exciting, you know." Her body trembled uncontrollably. This was creepy, so creepy. Did Eloise have to go through this every single day? The memory of the ritual flooded her mind. The chanting, the prayers for God to grant his descendant upon this land. Tears of utter despair streamed down her face. When will this pain finally end? Will death be the only way to stop it? No. A fire ignited in her soul, a burning rage. "At the very least, I won't go down like this. Never!" Her eyes snapped open, blazing with a newfound determination. In a flash, her hand shot out, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. He froze, startled by her sudden movement. "What now?" he asked, a hint of irritation in his voice. "Do you have something to say?" She met his gaze, a defiant smirk playing on her lips. "Of course I do," she said, her voice now steady and cold. He sneered back. "Were you planning to beg for your life?" She let out a short, sharp laugh. "Beg? As if it's just that you're so pathetic, that's all." His eyes widened in shock. She pressed on, her words like daggers. "I let you be because I thought you had some great skill, but you were so boring I almost fell asleep. I guess being cut off from the world has really dulled your sense things." Her smile was a beautiful, dangerous thing. So outdated. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the crown prince waited, a pocket watch in his gloved hand. His knight Fodor approached. "Your Highness, it's time," he announced. The prince, bare-chested and preparing for his own baptism, turned to him. "Why are you here today?" Fyodor's expression was carefully neutral. "Anna is possessed, so I came in her place," he lied smoothly. "I couldn't allow your Highness's baptism to be tainted with blood. Please forgive me." The prince's sharp green eyes studied him for a moment. "I see, so that's what happened," he said, though his tone was unconvinced. He would call a maid to assist with his clothes. Fodor bowed. But as he turned to leave, the prince's voice stopped him. "Fodor, starting tomorrow, you don't need to come anymore." The prince's face was serene, but his words were a clear dismissal. "When it comes to the stench of blood, no one compares to you who has lived on the battlefield." Fyodor's eyes widened slightly, but he simply bowed his head. "Yes, as you command." As he walked away, his mind raced. Could Lias have noticed something? "I don't like this. I should let Anna know." Just then, he ran into another knight. "Lucas, just who I needed to see. Do you know where Knight Anna is right now?" Lucas looked flustered. Well, I've been looking for Captain Anna all day too. But she's nowhere to be found." Fyodor's blood ran cold. What do you say?" Lucas explained that he'd finished his patrol that morning and went to find her, but she'd been gone since then. There's no one to handle the backlog of duties now. Fyodor's face hardened with alarm. He barked an order. Assemble the unit immediately and search for Anna. The knight scrambled to obey. A terrible feeling washed over Fodor. Don't tell me something bad has happened. He closed his eyes, his power surging around him in a brilliant flash of light. A magic circle appeared at his feet, showing him a vision. He saw her. Anna, her knight's jacket discarded, her hands still bound, sitting on the floor looking vulnerable. His eyes snapped open, wide with shock and fury. Good thing I spiked her drink, he thought desperately. Now that I know her location, I'll find her soon. He turned his cloak billowing behind him. Please, let her be safe until then. Back in the room, the apostle stared at Anna, intrigued by her sudden change. Changing tactics? Trying to provoke me? He asked. She only smiled, a captivating, fearless expression on her face. The more I see you, the more charming you become, she said, her voice a seductive purr. She gestured her bound hands. To enjoy this properly, I need my hands free. It's hard to get into position with these restraints, you know? The apostle's thin, laced with suspicion. Do you really think I'd trust you? He scoffed. Joke me, didn't you? She countered, her smile never wavering. Are you so unsure of yourself that you have to tie me up? She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. Whatever, let's just get started, Sage, before anyone else shows up. The sage's mind reeled, a single thought echoing in the quiet chamber. There's no way. No way Princess Eloise would ever be this promiscuous. Could it be? The personality of another soul residing within that beautiful body? He leaned closer as she beckoned him, her voice a sultry whisper, promising to show him everything if he just came a little closer. Her hands were bound, yet she held all the power. He asked, moving toward her as instructed. She guided him down, her voice husky as she murmured for him to go a bit lower. A slow, knowing smile spread across the sage's lips. Ah, I get what you want, he thought, his hand moving to her collar. She affirmed his thoughts with a simple, that's right, her eyes gleaming with a strange light as she pulled him down between her legs. Should I show you properly now, he thought, his mind racing with possibilities. But then in an instant, everything changed. A violent shove sent him flying backward. What the? He didn't even have time to process it. Before he hit the marble floor with a sickening thud. He looked up, stunned, to see Eloise scrambling away from him. Hey you! He yelled, pushing himself up on one foot. Her face was a mask of sheer panic and confusion. Urged, she gasped, her hands still bound behind her. She reached for the nearby door, rattling the handles with all her might. A desperate, rattling sound filled the room, her face contorted in a grimace of effort and fear. Ha ha ha, a nervous laugh escaped her lips. This couldn't be happening. Why was she here? What was going on? A dark memory flashed in her mind, the chilling voice of that man, his eyes glowing with malice, vowing that if she acted out, he would just have to hold her tighter. Back in the present, she heard a voice from the other side of the door. You're already up. Did you hit your head on the marble floor? She rattled the handles again, harder this time, her knuckles turning white. Stop struggling, the voice continued. You can't open it anyway. Her heart sank. Why won't it open? Just as despair began to set in, another voice cut through the air, calm and steady. You should finish what you started. The doors suddenly burst open with a loud crack, and a figure stood silhouetted in the brilliant light. Eloise stumbled back, her eyes wide as she took in the sight of Fodor. His expression was unreadable, his gaze sweeping over her disheveled state as he asked, "Is okay?" He shrugged off his heavy, fur-lined coat and draped it over her trembling shoulders. Wear this, he commanded, his voice low and firm. You got here quickly, she managed to say, a blush creeping up her neck as she clutched the warm fabric. Fyodor's attention, however, was now fixed on the man still on the floor. He saw the sage cowering between his boots, and a cold fury ignited in his eyes. Without a word, he delivered a brutal kick, sending the sage sprawling across the room with a pained grunt. Fodor didn't spare him a second glance. He scooped Eloise into his arms and walked away, leaving the sage to stare after them, a strange premonition chilling his soul. Fodor, oh dear, fate is beginning to change. In the quiet of her room, Fodor gently laid Eloise on the bed. He looked down at her, his brow furrowed worry. Are you feeling unwell anywhere? He asked softly. Then a horrifying thought struck him. Wait, could it be? She was panting, her face flushed with a feverish heat. Fodor, she whispered, her voice weak. That guy, he gave me some kind of drug. My fever, it won't go down. Panic seized him. Hang in there for a moment. I'll get a doctor, he said, turning to leave. But her hand shot out, grabbing his coat in a desperate grip. Don't go, she cried out. He froze, his body rigid with shock and confusion. A doctor won't be able to help, she pleaded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. You're the one who has to help me. With surprising strength, she pulled him down onto the bed with her. His mind went blank, his body crashing against hers. What was happening? His heart hammered against his ribs, a fierce blush spreading across his face. Calm down, he stammered, trying to push himself up. In this state, you'll regret it later. But she was lost to reason, her body burning with an unnatural heat. At the very least, she whispered, her face close to his. Tonight, I don't want to hold back. The world seemed to spin as a soft gasp escaped his lips. He was completely overwhelmed, his mind a chaotic mess. As her lips found his, it was clumsy, desperate. and when she pulled back, a teasing smile played on her lips. "Why are you so bad at kissing?" she murmured, tracing his jawline. "I thought you were a tree." So's face burned with humiliation, his purple eyes wide with disbelief. He tried to push her away, but her hand caught his, pressing it against her chest. "Don't push me away," she whispered, her voice laced with a dangerous mix of innocence and seduction. "It's not like you have any special feelings for me, right? Still." "This is what?" she cooed, leaning closer. "Something like this." Her hand moved, his breath catching in his throat as a wave of heat washed over him. A soft gasp escaped her lips, his hand instinctively tightened on her. "I guess you're finally starting to feel something?" Teased. "I can tell without you saying it. Your body reacts first. Like this." His protest died in his throat, a strangled sound of pleasure and desperation. "Stop," he pleaded, but his body betrayed him, arching into her touch. "Your reactions are cute," she purred, her fingers unbuttoning his vest. "Don't tell me this is your first time." Her hand slid under his shirt, her touch sending shivers down his spine. He gritted his teeth, unable to form a coherent thought. "Then is this your first time, Your Highness?" he managed to ask, his voice strained. Her fingers grazed his bare skin, tracing the lines of his muscles. A slow, wicked smile spread across her face. "Who knows? Why don't you find out for yourself?" "Let's get started," she declared, a determined glint in her eyes. He closed his eyes, bracing himself. "I'm ready." Eloise heaved out her name like a prayer. The heat was becoming unbearable. "Hey, do you like this position?" she whispered, her breath hot against his ear. His gloved hand moved to her throat, not with force, but with a desperate need to feel her pulse beneath his fingertips, to ground himself in reality. A soft moan escaped her lips, of himself losing control. But then he stopped. Through the haze of desire, a single thought cut through. "This wasn't her. I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice thick with regret. "But I can't take you like this." He gently pulled away, covering her with a blanket. "I'll call the doctor, just hold on a little." He stood up on shaky legs, every muscle in his body screaming in protest. His face was flushed, his mind a battlefield of duty and desire. He clenched his fist, his knuckles white. Trying to suppress the raging fire within him, he stumbled out into the cold, empty hallway, finally collapsing to his knees. "This is the worst," he gasped, clutching his head in his hands, completely and utterly tormented. The next morning, Eloise woke with a groan, her head pounding. "Ow, my head. It's not even a hangover, it feels like it's splitting." "Huh?" She noticed a bowl and a note on the table beside her bed. "It's medicine, drink it." Her mind was a complete blank. What on earth happened last night? She vaguely remembered being with Fodor, but the details were lost in a fog. "I don't know," she sighed. "I'll ask Fodor when I see him later." She picked up the bowl and drank the medicine. Even if I messed up, he probably covered for me. He was so reliable after all. Meanwhile, in the garden, Fodor looked like death warmed over. A dark, gloomy aura surrounded him. "Good morning, Your Grace," his servants greeted him nervously. "The Duke seems very busy these days." "Did you stay up working all night? Seriously, your face looks really worn out." He could only glare. "It's all thanks to you," he thought, the image of a devilish Eloise flashing in his mind, making him cover his face in shame. "Good morning," a cheerful voice called out. He jumped, startled, as Eloise appeared before him, looking radiant and completely refreshed. "I was just about to go look for you, what a coincidence." Then she leaned in, her expression turning. "Nothing happened after you returned to your room last night, right?" His heart leaped into his throat. "I felt dizzy and probably fell asleep right away, but I really can't remember a thing." He turned away, his back ramrod straight, unable to meet her gaze. Nothing happened. He felt her hand on his back, a casual, friendly touch that sent a jolt through his entire system. A furious blush crept up his neck. "Huh? Your face is so red. Did you take some kind of tonic?" Her head tilted in genuine confusion. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the pristine tea set, the light sparkling off the gilded edges. The holy priest sage offered a placid smile, his voice smooth as silk as he inquired about the prince's rest. He continued, his tone perfectly polite. "You must be busy after the baptism ceremony, but I heard that you were looking for me." The prince, resplendent in his own formal attire, gestured to the seat opposite him. His voice a stark contrast to the coldness that often lingered in his eyes. He explained he had just enough time to enjoy a cup of tea with the holy priest sage, and he also had a few things he wished to ask. The sage's smile didn't falter as he gracefully the offer, pouring the fragrant tea, but held a subtle, probing edge. "I see, I'm glad you're serving me such fine tea," he began, his eyes glinting. "But the medicine your majesty takes must be very bitter, isn't it?" How could he possibly know that? The prince's smile tightened just a fraction. He saw too much. The sage leaned forward, his voice in conspiratorial whisper, offering his help if there was anything he could do. The prince let out a soft, appreciative laugh. As expected, nothing escapes the holy priest's eyes, he admitted, deciding to be direct. The time for games was over, he needed answers. "In fact, I'm looking for someone because of that matter. I need your help." The sage's friendly demeanor vanished, reply a sharp, assessing gaze. His eyes, green like ancient forests, narrowed. He asked, the single question hanging heavy in the air. "Who are you looking for?" The prince's expression turned somber, a deep longing etched onto his features. He spoke the name like a prayer, a curse, a desperate plea. "The princess of Certain, I'm looking for Eloise." A smirk quick and sharp as a razor's edge flashed across the sage's face. An image of a silver-haired knight, fierce and unyielding, flickered in his mind's eye. Ah, the princess of Certain. He looked down into his teacup, watching his own reflection ripple on the surface. His fingers hovered over the delicate porcelain. There is a way, he said softly. The prince's eyes widened, a storm of disbelief and hope warring within them. His voice was tight with emotion, almost a gasp. Is that true? Can you really find her? The sage took a slow, deliberate sip of his tea, the picture of calm confidence. Yes, he said, his voice resonating with absolute certainty. There's nothing in this world that cannot be solved, your majesty. Just as the prince was about to press for more, a chamberlain's voice cut through the tense atmosphere, announcing that the Duke of Putska urgently requested an audience. The prince's expression slightly dour. Now, he granted permission. Let him in. Heavy, purposeful footsteps echoed on the marble floor as Duke Fodor strode into the room. His sharp violet eyes immediately fell upon the holy priest, and a flicker of surprise and annoyance crossed his face. He was here too? Ignoring the sage, Fodor addressed the prince directly, his tone brusque. What urgent matter brings you here so early in the morning? Then he turned his cold gaze to the sage, his voice dripping with dismissal. It's a matter involving military secrets. Would you mind stepping out for a moment, holy priest? The sage's smile was a masterpiece of polite insincerity. Of course, he said, rising gracefully from his seat. Please speak freely. But he wasn't finished. Oh no, this devious man was never finished. He paused at the door, turning back with an expression of concern. Ah, but your majesty, I'm soon scheduled to depart for missionary work, he announced casually. So regarding what you asked, you'll have to wait a little longer. A delay tactic. A power play. But the prince was desperate. His voice was filled with earnest trust as he replied, if you can truly find her, I can wait as long as needed. Truly, under this sky, the only one I can trust is you, holy priest. Fyodor's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Devious man, his mind reeled. What sly trick did pull on the prince to win his favor so quickly? If he could just expose that conniving face of his, he opened his mouth to speak to report on the incident with Dame Anna from the previous night. But the sage cut him off again. Forgive me for interrupting, the said, his eyes locking with the prince's. But let me say just one thing before I leave. It will help obtain what you seek. He leaned in, his dropping to a low, mysterious tone. A person's soul is most clearly cleansed when it meets water. His smile was wicked as he added, just like your majesty's baptism in the purification chamber. The prince was intrigued. Could you be a bit more specific? He asked. The sage merely chuckled, turning his sharp gaze towards the fuming duke. That is all I can tell you. I cannot reveal the will of heaven. Don't you agree, Duke? His eyes were like chips of ice, a silent, chilling warning. As one who handles heavenly matters, he continued, his voice a low threat aimed directly at Fodor. Be as careful as the holy priest in all your words and actions, so that you not incur the wrath of the heavens. Fyodor's jaw was clenched so tight it ached. Through gritted teeth, he forced out a thank you for the warm advice. The prince, desperate for more, called out, Sage, please continue speaking. But it was too late. The sage was already leaving, his final words echoing in the room. The rest to your majesty. I'll take my leave now. Later, as the royal procession moved through the palace corridors, the sage fell into step beside Fodor. He leaned close, his voice a low murmur that only the duke could hear. You must really cherish your cousin, he commented, his eyes on Anna, who was walking arm in arm with the prince. Then the warmth vanished from his voice, replaced by a deadly chill. If you don't want to die, stay away from Anna. Fodor flinched as if struck. What was this man talking about? The sage just smiled, a picture of innocence. We're just sharing one secret each, he whispered before moving on. At the dining table, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, as everyone was encouraged to take a seat. Eloise saw her opportunity. With a determined glint in her eye, she grabbed the chair right next to Fodor and plopped herself down. I'll sit here, she announced with a cheerful smile. Fodor froze, his face flushing a brilliant red. He cleared his throat, unable to look at her, completely flustered by her bold move. As the maids began serving the meal, Anna presented a piece of meat to the prince with simpering smile. Your majesty, this is a dish I had the palace chef prepare specially for you. Try it with the special sauce. The prince's smile was strained. Haha, meat, I'll enjoy it, he said, a vein pulsing in his temple. But before he could take a bite, the sage's smooth voice interjected. Given your majesty's constitution, it's better for you to eat mainly vegetables rather than greasy meats. A sudden pallor washed over the prince's face, and he winced slightly and asked if he was unwell. It's nothing, he snapped, waving her. Don't mind me. The sage's eyes glinted with triumph. He leaned forward, his voice carrying across the table. The illness your majesty is suffering from, with the right help, it can be fully cured. A collective gasp went through the room. What was he saying? What illness? Fodor had had enough. He stomped hard on the sage's foot under the table, hissing, I'd prefer if you didn't confuse his majesty with unconfirmed hypotheses, holy priest. Eloise's head whipped around, her face contorted in anger. How dare he? Fodor, what are you saying? The holy priest is only advising me with my best interest in mind, she yelled before delivering a sharp, satisfying kick to Fyodor's shin. The sage, unperturbed, continued his cryptic pronouncements. You can find them using the method I mentioned earlier, he said, his eyes twinkling. Water? The prince murmured. Yes, what we seek is always nearby, the sage replied, just as a nervous maid approached their table. With a subtle, almost invisible movement, he stuck out his foot. The maid tripped, letting out a terrified shriek as the plates and water pitcher went flying. "Watch out!" Fodor yelled, reacting in a blur of motion. He threw himself in front of Eloise, shielding her with his own body as cold water splashed all over his back and uniform. The table was a mess of spilled liquid and shattered porcelain. Fodor glared at the trembling maid. "Your Majesty, the baptism ceremony not long ago. Please be careful not to get splashed with filth." The sage clicked his tongue in disapproval. "So careless!" The prince, enraged by the disruption, slammed his hand on the table. "Get lost now," he roared at the maid, who could only stammer out an apology before fleeing. An awkward, heavy silence fell over the dining room, and in that silence, a memory surfaced in Eloise's mind, a memory of another man, from another life. Richa, from the eastern lands, a slave taking a desperate gulp of water. A whip cracked through the air, striking his back with a sickening thud. A slave's hang off. "Move it, you bastard," his master screamed. "You slow piece of trash! If I'd known he was this dull, I wouldn't have paid so much for him, damn it." Another slave rushed to his side. "General, are you all right?" Richa shook his head, his voice low and steady. "We're in the same boat now, just a club. I've left the past behind. You don't need to be formal with me anymore." As they walked, a flicker of light in the distance caught his eye. His golden gaze sharpened with a hunter's intensity. "Looks like there's a village down there. Tonight's the night," he declared. The memory faded and Eloise was back in a carriage, the wheels splashing through a puddle. Was lost in thought beside her, muttering the sage's words. Water and soul, huh? Anna, sitting across from him, leaned forward. "Your Majesty, what are you thinking so deeply about? Have some tea?" He took the cup with a curt thank you, but just then the carriage jolted violently. "Ah!" Anna shrieked as the hot tea spilled all over her lap. "Oh, and this was my favorite dress." The prince rolled his eyes. So dramatic, he thought to himself. But Eloise, riding alongside the carriage, saw an opportunity. Maybe this is a good chance to test someone else's soul with water too. Suddenly, her thoughts were shattered. Both she and Fodor spotted movement ahead. Two figures were sprinting through the fields, running for their lives. Fyodor's training kicked in instantly. He reined in his horse, his voice booming. "Prepare for defense." Eloise pulled her horse to a halt, her heart pounding. "What's going on?" Her eyes widened in shock. She recognized the man in the lead. "That person, isn't he the fourth sub-male lead in the original story? I didn't think I'd meet him here." And then the full, brutal memory came rushing back, the third since the fall of Sertion. The original Eloise, now a slave, lying on a cot as crude voices filtered through the tent flap. "What, is it that guy's turn today? Even slaves get a chance, huh?" A man's weight pressed down on her, and she squeezed her eyes shut, her body limp and unresponsive. Her hand trembled. Starting again, but then the weight was gone. A figure stood over her. It was Richa. He lay beside her, his voice a gentle whisper in the dark. "To go to sleep. I'm just like you," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "To survive, you sometimes have to let go of your dignity. One day, the time for revenge will come, so relax and sleep. I won't do anything." Revenge, she thought, her heart a cold, dead weight in her chest. In this dark, gloomy barracks, will that day ever come? Suddenly, the night exploded into chaos. The tents were on fire. She stood in the inferno, her tattered clothes illuminated by the hungry flames, the heat scorching her skin. She collapsed to the ground, smoke filling her lungs. "So this is the end for me." Through the roaring flames, a figure sprinted towards her. It was Richa. He grabbed her arm, his voice urgent. "Get up!" Her eyes, wide with shock, stared up at him. "Why are you?" she rasped. "Why are you going this far?" He ignored her question, his own eyes burning with intensity. "Escape, survive, and take revenge. This is your chance." He swept her into his arms and ran, dodging falling, burning timbers. Arrows sliced through the smoky air, and one buried itself deep in his back. "Elle, let me go," she cried, struggling in his arms. "Leave me and run away on your own." He grunted in pain, but his grip only tightened. It's okay, just hold on tight. I saw the look in your eyes, you want to live." "There they are," a voice shouted from the darkness. A volley of arrows flew, and two more slammed into Risha's back. He staggered, his strength failing, but he pushed on, driven by sheer will. Finally, he could go no further. They tumbled to the ground in a heap, her hand landing in a pool of his blood. She looked at him, her heart shattering. With the last of his strength, his hand began to glow with a soft, ethereal light. He touched her cheek. "That's enough, you must survive," he whispered. His hand fell away, and his body went still beside her. "Risha," Eloise whispered in the present, her eyes fixed on the man running for his life. "I remember that name." Snapping back to reality, she saw the slave master take aim with his bow. "Do you really think a slave can escape from his master?" he roared. The arrow flew straight and true, but in a flash of silver, a sword sliced through the air, cutting the arrow clean in two. The slave master stared in disbelief. It was the silver-haired knight. "Step back unless you want to get hurt," Eloise warned, her voice deadly calm. She pointed her sword at the man. "I'm taking this, leave me." A new resolve hardened her gaze. Risha, I'll make you mine. I am a knight of the Imperial Order, she declared, her voice ringing with authority. Back off while I'm still being nice. The man sneered, his face twisting in rage. Trying to steal my slave like that. Eloise's patience snapped. Her blade moved closer to his throat, the sharp steel glinting in the sun. Do I need to make you spill blood to make you understand? Get lost already! The air crackled with tension, the world seeming to hold its breath around them. And yelled. An arrow sliced through the air with a deadly whistle, aimed to kill, but before it could find its mark, it was met with the cold, hard steel of a sword. Anna stood firm, her silver hair whipping around her, her eyes with defiance. With a flick of her wrist, she shattered the wooden shaft, her voice a low growl. I won't say it twice. Make way, but the disgusting slave trader just sneered, his face contorted in a mask of rage. A wench who doesn't understand, huh? Hey, you there, he bellowed, pointing a grubby finger at her. From behind, the young man she was protecting, Richard, watched with wide, confused eyes. Why was this night going so far for them? Anna's gaze was like ice as she met the trader's glare, her voice devoid of any warmth. That's none of your business, she clipped out, her hand tightening on her sword's hilt. Just as the fat merchant was about to explode in fury, a new voice cut through the tension, smooth and cold as a winter morning. What's all this commotion during the crown prince's procession? Man stepped out from the crowd, his presence alone silencing the entire street. With hair as white as snow and piercing violet eyes, he was the very picture of ability and power. He moved to stand in front of Anna, shielding her from the merchant's wrath, his gaze promising a world of pain. If you've got something to say, he said, his voice dangerously low. Say it to me. He let the words hang in the air before delivering the final blow. I am Duke Fyodor Plitska. The name hit the merchant like a physical force. Fyodor Plitska? The man's face went from red with rage to pale with terror in a heartbeat. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he began to stammer. I must have misunderstood something. If I had known you were a duke, I'd have given you 10 slaves even, but Fyodor's expression didn't soften. Still, he said, his eyes glinting, you must pay the price. He tossed a heavy pouch of gold at the man's feet. I'll buy these 2 slaves. The merchant scrambled for the gold, his fear instantly replaced greed. It's an honor, he cried. The 2 young men, Richard and his companion, looked on in disbelief. They were free. Without her, they fell to their knees, bowing their heads in gratitude to the Duke. From today on, we'll serve you as our master, they declared in unison. But Fyodor's sharp violet eyes immediately corrected them. I'm not the one who saved you too. His gaze shifted to the woman standing beside him. It was Knight Anna. Give your thanks to her. Anna stood silently, watching the scene unfold. Richard's head snapped up, his gaze locking onto hers. Master, he cried out, crawling forward until he was kneeling directly at her feet. I pledge my full loyalty to you. Instead of a grand acceptance, Anna simply gestured to his wounds. First, get these bandages on. Come here for a moment, she said, her voice softening just a fraction. As she tended to him, Fyodor watched them from a distance, a complex emotion flickering in his eyes before he turned and walked away. Later, the crown prince, with his cunning green eyes, leaned back in his carriage, a sly smile playing on his lips. What's the matter? He asked Fyodor. It's nothing serious. I brought in 2 injured slaves. The prince raised an eyebrow. You're not usually one to care about such things. Fyodor's expression remained impassive. If it displeases you, I'll handle it as per your highness of command. The prince let out a short laugh. Haha, you take everything so seriously. I was just saying. Let's get going already. As night fell over the Grand Ducal Manor, a soft knock echoed on a wooden door. Who is it? Richard's voice called out from within. The door creaked open, and his breath caught in his throat. It was her, Anna. In the dim light, she looked ethereal. He instinctively reached out, his fingers brushing against hers as she stepped inside. Can we talk for a moment? She asked softly. Inside the small room, she poured him a cup of warm tea. Relax, she said, noticing how tense he was. I just came here to talk. His heart was hammering in his chest. This woman, his savior, his master. He vowed, I won't forget the favor you've done for me. Just give me any order. She smiled faintly. You say that so confidently without even knowing what I might ask. Her fingers gently tilted his chin up, forcing him to meet her gaze. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Is there something you wish from me? He breathed completely under her spell. Her eyes were serious now. I heard a few things from your companion, she began, her voice low and conspiratorial. That you were once a noble, but lost your memories due to an accident. I can give you troops and medicine. If you complete my task well, I'll let you have everything you once enjoyed. His eyes widened. Everything. What could she possibly want in return? So what do I need to do? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Her gaze was sharp, her words even sharper. More than just being my servant, become my sword and remove all obstacles in my way. He hesitated. How are you so sure I'll accept? A cool, confident smile touched her lips. You don't have many options, do you? He looked down at his worn clothes, the reality of his situation crashing down on him. She was right. No one wants a slave forever, so what will you choose? In that moment, his choice was clear. He knelt before her, taking her foot in his hands. He lowered his head, pressing his lips to her shoe in a gesture of absolute devotion. With all my heart, he swore, his voice thick with emotion, I will serve you as my queen. His eyes, when he looked up, burned with an unshakable resolve. Meanwhile, Duke Fyodor had just returned to the manor. His butler greeted him, but his words sent a jolt of irritation through the Duke. Earlier, did you say the lady went to the slave's room? The butler nodded grimly. It's getting late and she still hasn't come out. What if rumors start to spread? He fretted, gesturing towards the whispering maids in the hall. Fyodor let out a long, frustrated sigh, a vein throbbing in his temple. This woman was going to be the death of him. When Anna finally returned to her own chambers, she was shocked to find Fyodor standing there, his back to her. "Fyodor, what are you doing in my room?" He turned, his violet eyes scanning her face. "I was waiting for you," he said flatly. "Seems like the transformation potion's effect is wearing off. Your face has returned to that of Princess Eloise." His gaze sharpened. "You didn't let that slave see your face?" Anna blinked, surprised by his sudden concern. "No way. You didn't even acknowledge me this morning, and now you're suddenly responding." He looked away, a faint blush creeping up his neck. "Well, that's because last night." He trailed off, clearing his throat. "What about last night?" She pressed, her curiosity piqued. "Forget it," he mumbled, turning away. But just as she was about to question him further, a sudden, agonizing pain shot through his chest. "Ugh!" He gasped, clutching at his heart as he stumbled forward. "What's wrong?" she cried, rushing to his side. He gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his brow. "My chest. The illness has returned." He collapsed against her, his body trembling. "Just stay still like this," she commanded, pressing her hand firmly against his chest. A soft, warm light began to glow from her palm, pouring into him. The pain began to recede, replaced by a soothing warmth. "Feeling any better?" she asked, her voice steady. He let out a shaky breath, his head resting against her shoulder. "I'll get better with time. You can stop now," but she knew better. In the original story, the healing was stronger, more effective, with deeper contact. "This is strictly for treatment," she told herself firmly. "Don't scold me later, Fyodor." She grabbed his chin, pulling his face towards hers. "What do you mean?" he started to ask, his eyes wide with confusion. But she cut him off, pressing her lips against his. The world seemed to dissolve into a soft, warm glow. She pushed him back against the wall, deepening the kiss. "If you want to ease the symptoms," she murmured against his mouth, "just stay still." The kiss was gentle, purposeful, a transfer of healing energy that left them both breathless. Far away in the imperial palace, a different kind of plot was brewing. The crown prince sat in a lavish hall surrounded by hooded mages. "Your Highness, why have you called us here?" one asked. The tapped a finger against his chin, his green eyes glinting. "I have summoned you to seek your counsel. Is there a spell that uses water as a verification tool?" The mage's exed glances. "You mean, if someone who has used a transformational potion comes into contact with water, they can revert to their original form?" The prince's mind flashed back to an image of Anna recoiling from a splash of water. "A transformation potion," he mused. "Now that I think about it, Anna seems to be especially avoiding water." His eyes narrowed with suspicion. Could it be that Sir Anna? A wicked smile spread across his lips. "I should prepare a special gift for everyone at the Imperial Palace banquet the day after tomorrow. I need you all to prepare something using water." The mages bowed, understanding his sin intent as orbs of water began to form in their hands. Back in the room, the healing kiss finally ended, leaving Fyodor flushed and dazed, leaning heavily against Anna. A mischievous played on her lips as she pulled back, her own cheeks rosy. "Are you feeling better now?" He avoided her gaze, his voice a low murmur. "To be honest, I'm still a little." She raised an eyebrow. "Really? Your color has returned, so where does it hurt?" He took her hand, his blush deepening. "Let me just feel your hand," she watched, bewildered, as he pressed her palm against his cheek. "Your head still hasn't cooled down. What is wrong with him? It's not like she's cursed. She's like someone who's taken the wrong medicine," he thought frantically. Then he guided her hand to his chest, placing it over his rapidly beating heart. "It's tight here, too." "Did it reach your heart?" she wondered. Playing along, she asked sweetly. "Should I make deeper contact? Should I kiss you again?" His eyes fluttered shut, his voice a husky whisper. "If you would," she leaned in, her voice teasing. "It's no trouble at all. It's not like it's our first or second time." She smiled. "As allies, it's only natural that I help." "That's not necessarily true." Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, and he grabbed her, his grip firm and possessive. The dynamic shifted in an instant. "You've worked hard so far," he growled, his voice dropping an octave. "From now on, I'll lead." He crashed his lips against hers, and this time there was nothing gentle about it. It was a kiss of pure, unadulterated passion that sent shockwaves through her. It's like he suddenly became a different person, she thought, dazed. "Is this a side effect of the curse?" "Concentrate," he murmured against her lips, his hand tangling in her hair. "You're quite proactive today. Why don't you open your mouth?" His mind was a chaotic storm of sensation. "The closer we get, the more my feelings surge." He deepened the kiss, a desperate, consuming act. "I want to know her more deeply," he thought, his reason warring with his desire. "Should I let myself be drawn in by this woman who might be poison to me?" They stumbled, falling to the floor in a tangle of limbs. He pulled back, panting. "Isn't this enough?" he asked, his voice strained. "But the symptoms haven't completely subsided yet. She's more persistent than usual. It must be because of the curse, right?" he thought, trying to justify the overwhelming need he felt as he leaned in to kiss her again. The next morning, sunlight streamed into Fyodor's room. He sat up in bed, a small, satisfied smile on his face. Outside in the courtyard, the sound of clashing swords echoed through the air. Anna was training with Richard, who was shirtless and gleaming with sweat. "You're quick to catch on." she complimented, giving his chiseled chest an appreciative pat. Richard beamed, flexing proudly. From his balcony, Fodor watched them, a strange mixture of amusement and something else stirring within him. They're full of energy this morning. He glanced down at himself. I've also been training my body diligently. Would you like to feel? With a new resolve, he headed downstairs, wooden sword in hand. Wait! He called out, striding towards them. Anna, surprised. What's this? Why did you pull out a wooden sword? A sly, teasing glint entered her eyes. Do you have something else to discuss now that we're working? She leaned playfully against Richard's side, deliberately trying to provoke the Duke. Fyodor's face immediately flushed with irritation. There are so many eyes on us, so be a little more careful, Anna. If rumors of your conduct get out, it'll tarnish the family's reputation. But Richard stepped forward, a protective arm around Anna's waist. I am the lady's subordinate. It's only natural for a master to command and keep a subordinate close. What is the Duke so worried about? The air crackled with tension as the two men locked gazes. Fyodor's voice was sharp. This isn't a marketplace. As a noble, you should be able to notice what others think and restrain yourself. Anna, I'll say this again, don't forget your status. He looked pointedly at her. Behave with the thought that your actions represent the family. Anna sighed, stepping between them. I am careful when we're out, but Richard is a person of our due manner now, isn't he? Don't be so wary. Richard shot a triumphant smirk over her shoulder at Fodor. Yes, your grace, I'll conduct myself well, so as the lady says, you should put your worries aside. The unspoken challenge hung heavy in the morning air, a silent declaration of war between the two men for Anna's attention. The Duke's voice was a low, condescending drawl, dripping with aristocratic disdain. Your attitude is downright arrogant, he sneered, his arms crossed as he looked down his nose at Rashid. Didn't your former master teach you how to treat your superiors? But Rashid didn't even flinch. His gaze was steady, his voice calm as he replied, I was taught that a slave obeys only their master. The unspoken words hung heavy in the air, and you are not my master. The Duke's lips curled into a smug, infuriating smile. Oh, he found this amusing. Quite an interesting one, aren't you? He mused as Rashid was some new pet. Caught between the two of them, Eloise felt a headache coming on. The air was thick with testosterone, an invisible current of challenge passing between the Duke and her loyal slave. What was had enough? With a sharp gesture, she cut through their little staring contest. Don't waste your energy so early in the morning, she commanded, turning to Rashid. You wait over there. I have something to discuss with the Duke. Rashid's dark eyes lingered on her for a moment before he bowed his head. Yes, sir, he said, turning to walk away, but his posture was still rigid with tension. With him gone, Eloise turned her full attention, a playful, dangerous glint in her eyes. She stepped closer, invading his personal space, her voice a low purr. You're acting rather unlike a Duke, she teased, a smirk playing on her lips. Don't tell me you're jealous. She leaned in even closer, her breath ghosting over his skin. Or was yesterday's calming effect not enough? Towards Fodor like the physical blow. Suddenly, he wasn't in the sunlight anymore. Memories crashed over him in a hot, embarrassing wave. Her face so close to his. Her scent filling his senses. His own body betraying him. His mind screamed in denial. That's simply because of the curse. The memory was vivid, humiliating. The feel of her hand him, a simple touch meant to soothe the curse's pain, had sent his world tilting on its axis. He remembered his coat falling to the floor, the heat that had flared through him as she pressed him against the wall. His breath had hitched, his fingers clutching at her sleeve, at his own shirt, anywhere to ground himself. A single, mortifying tear had escaped his jolt of pure, unadulterated pleasure shot through him, making him cry out. His knees had buckled, and he'd collapsed right there on the floor. And what had she done? She had looked down at him, not with passion, but with the cool, detached curiosity of a scholar. He could still hear her voice, calm and analytical. Sensitive, are you? You're reacting quite well. She'd even had the audacity to give him a cheeky little wink, as if he were just some interesting science experiment. The memory sent a fresh wave of heat to his face, his entire being shrinking into a tiny, flustered chibi of himself. What a disgrace this is, his mind wailed. The worst part, she doesn't even remember what happened that night. While I got all worked up on my own, Aloise's voice snapped him back to the present. What's this? Have you started to like me? Fodor flinched, his cheeks burning. It's not that, he stammered, looking away, a blush staining his neck. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to meet her gaze, his expression deadly serious. Since you, I intend to take responsibility for your highness. Eloise stared at him for a beat, then burst out laughing. Aren't you being a bit too innocent? It was just a treatment. Why are you taking it so seriously? Before he could process her words, she leaned in, her hand gently cupping his cheek. A real kiss is, she whispered, her lips brushing against his, done like this. From a distance, Rashid froze. His eyes widened in shock. They weren't just ordinary cousins. Eloise pulled back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Surprised, she asked, watching the Duke turn to stone, his face a brilliant shade of red. I don't attach any meaning to it, so don't feel pressured. She poked his cheek. Why are you so stiff? He could only manage a choked as she turned away. Her eyes landed on Rashid, who was still standing by a tree. You're still here? She asked, walking towards him. He nodded, his expression unreadable. Yes, I was waiting for you, master. He couldn't help but ask, his voice tight. The two of you were in that kind of relationship? He ran a hand through his hair, looking deeply troubled. Eloise just laughed, waving a dismissive hand. Haha, what are you talking about? We were just whispering. But as she walked past him, Fodor and Rashid locked eyes over her shoulder, a silent declaration of war passing between them. Rashid was the first to break the stare, turning to Aloys with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Oh right, you said you wanted to learn how to handle this country's weapons, didn't you? His hand rested possessively on her shoulder. It would be an honor if I could learn from you, master, he said, his gaze flicking back to the Duke. He drew his sword with a flourish. Let's start with the sword technique first. Aloys laughed, oblivious to the simmering tension. Fodor was left standing alone, looking utterly dejected. Just then, his butler appeared. Your Grace, someone from the Imperial Palace has arrived. They're waiting in the reception room. Fyodor's expression hardened. Understood. I'll change first, he said, striding away. In the opulent reception room, an Imperial messenger delivered a black and gold envelope. To commemorate the completion of the baptism, the Imperial Palace will be holding a ball. The messenger announced. His Highness is sending this invitation in hopes that both Your Grace and Dame Anna will attend. Fyodor's expression remained neutral as he accepted. Understood. I'll gladly attend. After the messenger departed, the butler voiced his concern. The Crown Prince may have some ulterior motive. Fyodor's gaze was distant. I know, he said softly. But it's also an opportunity for her. A determined glint entered his eyes. Bring her here. I have good news to share with her. When Aloys arrived, Fodor explained the situation, handing her the invitation. Her eyes lit up. That's good news, she thought, clutching the invitation gleefully. This time I'll succeed in sneaking in for sure. Meanwhile at the palace, a sinister scene was unfolding. The Crown Prince watched as Mage poured power into a glowing red orb. Inject it stronger, he commanded, a cruel smile on his face. More. Draw out the mana to the fullest, so that everyone can share in its blessing. From a hidden doorway, a woman with lilac hair watched them, her face pale with worry. She clutched a similar but blue orb to her chest. I should have told you beforehand, she whispered to herself, her heart heavy with dread. A few days later, the night of the ball arrived. Chambers. Fodor stood before his desk, holding a familiar wooden box. A memory surfaced, warm and poignant. His mother, her voice gentle, presenting him with the box. Inside lay a magnificent pearl necklace with a radiant pink jewel. My son, keep this with you, she had said. A day will come when you meet a woman you love. Place around her neck. She is the one you must protect for life. Protect for life. Images of Aloys flashed through his mind, her brilliant smile, the ghost of her lips on his skin. His hand tightened around the box. A quiet resolve settled over him. Yes, the only one who can protect her is me. He found her in her room, ready for the ball. She looked up with a smile, resplendent in a deep purple gown, and for a moment, he forgot how to breathe. This is it, he thought, his heart pounding. I must let everyone know that she belongs to me. He walked towards her. I'm fully prepared. But you're missing one thing. He opened the box, revealing the necklace. Gently, reverently, he fastened it around her neck. It settled perfectly against her skin, the jewel glowing with an inner light. Now it's perfect. Her fingers brushed against the gem. This isn't just any necklace, is it? She asked, her eyes searching his. It feels like it holds a special meaning for you. A rare, soft smile touched his lips. The moment it was placed around your neck, it became special. As their carriage pulled away, Rashid watched from the manor steps, a shadow falling over his face. They arrived at the glittering Imperial Palace. Fodor, in his formal military attire, looked every bit the powerful Duke. He offered his hand, and Aloys emerged from the carriage, a vision of elegance and beauty. As they entered, the Crown Prince was already waiting. You've come, Fodor, he said, his eyes immediately fixing on Aloys. And Anna, you look truly beautiful tonight. She gave a polite, distant smile. But the prince was not to be deterred. Then to repay such effort, tonight I shall be your partner. Fodor stepped forward, his body shielding Aloys. Your Highness, since you have a fiancée, it would be better to remain by her side. After all, many eyes are watching. The prince's smile was sharp as a razor's edge. He moved past Fodor, taking Aloys' hand in his. I am already the ruler of this nation, he declared, his voice carrying across the garden. Who would dare to contradict my words? Fyodor's hand clenched into a white-knuckled fist at his side. The prince lifted Aloys' hand to his lips, his gaze possessive and triumphant. Tonight, he murmured, his voice a low, commanding caress. Stay by my side. His green eyes gleamed with a chilling light. The surrounding nobles began to whisper amongst themselves. With a sharp tug, Aloys snatched her hand back. Her face was a mask of pure loathing. Disgusting bastard, she thought, her eyes flashing with icy fire. The prince's smile faltered. What's this? He asked, a dangerous edge to his voice. Surely you're not saying you'd go against the will of your monarch? He stepped closer, cornering her. Aloys stood her ground, her chin held high. Of course not. With everyone's eyes on us, I'm restraining myself as much as possible. The prince chuckled, delighted by her defiance. But in the next instant, a hand shot out, grabbing Aloys' arm. She gasped as she was yanked backwards, stumble away from the prince. It was Fodor. He pulled her flush against him, his arm a steel band around her waist, the sudden movement splashing water from the fountain. Surprised, the prince asked, his smile returning, wider and more menacing than before. He watched them, his eyes gleaming with amusement. Aloys' heart hammered in her chest. What is this? Why does it feel like he's testing me? A cold dread washed over her. Could it be he knows something? The prince's gaze was a physical weight, a silent challenge. Anna, what will you do? Will you come into my arms or else? But Fyodor made the choice for her. His expression was a storm of raw emotion, anger, possession, desperation. He took a resolute step forward, her face in his hands, and crashed his lips against hers. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The prince's smirk vanished, his face twisting into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. The nobles stared, their jaws hanging open, completely stunned into silence. What in the world was happening? The world spun on its axis, a dizzying blur of gold and purple as Fyodor wrapped his arms around Anna, pulling her against his chest. Time seemed to stretch and then snap back into place as they landed with a soft thud on the manicured lawn. The sound of a nearby fountain suddenly deafeningly loud. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "Oh my!" Someone shrieked. His Highness must be so embarrassed, another tittered. Anna's mind was a blank slate of pure, unadulterated panic. She was still clinging to Fyodor's legs, her face buried in the fabric of his trousers. From the corner of her eye, she could see Prince Lias standing with a beautiful woman in pink, whose expression was a mixture of shock and concern. "Are you all right?" the woman asked, her voice with worry as she looked at Lias, but the prince just grunted in annoyance. Fyodor gently helped Anna to her feet, his touch steady and warm. Her cheeks burned humiliation as she stammered an apology, her voice barely a whisper, admitting she didn't mean to make such a scene. But Fyodor just smiled, his eyes soft. He told her it was fine, that after everything they'd been through, what was there to be shy about? After everything? What did he mean by that? Flashed back to that night, the closeness, the heat. Before she could get farther, his hand came up, his thumb gently wiping something from the corner of her mouth. He told her to stay still, that her makeup was smudged. The touch was so intimate, so public, it sent another jolt through her. He was talking about that day, wasn't he? Could he possibly mean their accidental kiss? While Anna's heart hammered against her ribs, Fyodor looked completely unfazed. He simply smiled at her, asking if they should head inside now. The whispers were still buzzing around them, but he ignored them completely. Just for one little kiss, they're making such a fuss, she thought, a spark of defiance igniting within her. Fine. If he'd be calm, so could she. She took his offered hand, her expression smoothing into one of cool indifference as she said, "Let's go." As they walked away, the gossip followed them. Weren't they cousins? In this country, cousins could marry, but they didn't seem like family at all. One young lady whined in disappointment, "No way, I had my eye on him." Meanwhile, Prince Lias's partner, Lady Rosalia, coquettishly took his arm, telling him he could now take her hand so they could head inside. Lias smirked, a flicker of something calculating in his eyes as he thanked her, promising an enjoyable evening. Inside, the grand ballroom was a sea of glittering jewels and rustling silk. They were immediately approached by a portly man with a grand mustache, Baron Staz. The Baron greeted the Duke, his eyes widening in surprise when he noticed Anna. He remarked that it was unusual to see the Duke with a partner. Fyodor simply smiled and was about to introduce Anna, but she, overwhelmed by the sudden attention, quickly ducked behind him. The Baron chuckled at her shyness, but his laughter died in his throat when Fyodor leaned in and said, in a low, confidential tone, that she was the one who would become his wife. The Baron's jaw dropped. "Then you mean you'll be marrying?" Fyodor quickly put a finger to his lips, hushing him. He whispered that it was a secret for now, as he hadn't even proposed to the woman yet. Later, while Fyodor was occupied, Anna tried to find a quiet corner, but trouble found her anyway. A group of noble ladies were whispering not so subtly, their eyes darting towards her. "Is that the same woman they say kissed the Duke?" one asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "Seeing her now, she's nothing special," another sneered. They decided the kiss must have been an accident, dismissing Anna as some unrefined girl from the countryside, probably the Duke's cousin. Their voices were getting louder, more pointed, and Anna's patience wore thin. As her gaze met theirs, the ringleader, a blonde with a sharp face, snapped, demanding to know she was looking at so rudely. She introduced herself as Ailey, daughter of Count Edmund. Anna's lips curved into a wry smile. She coolly replied that gossiping about others made them no more refined than her. Ailey and her friends gasped in outrage. "What did you just say?" Ailey shrieked, her face contorting with fury. "Are you so blinded by relying on the Duke that you can't see straight? Know your place, my place?" Anna retorted, her voice dangerously calm. "And what exactly is my place?" "You should know that better than I. Isn't your paternal family ruined? Aren't you just living off your mother's side?" Ailey's face paled, then flushed with anger. She puffed out her chest, boasting that her father was Count Edmund, second in prestige only to Duklicka himself. She leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper as she asked who Anna thought suited the Duke more. Count Edmund, the name struck a chord deep within Anna's memory. In the original story, he was just a minor extra, a pitiful vassal, who had no presence while the former king lived, and in the end, to save his own skin, he sold out the country. A traitor. Such a great man, wasn't he? Anna's arm to ice. Count Edmund's betrayal was known throughout the kingdom. She looked Ailey dead in the eye, her voice cutting through the ballroom's chatter. "And yet you grew up without shame, standing so boldly. I suppose it makes sense you're the daughter of a traitor." Ailey froze, her fan clattering to the floor. What did you just say?" she stammered. "Did I say anything untrue?" Anna pressed on, relentless. "With the same blood as your father, won't you do the same to the Duke someday?" Ailey was speechless, her face a mask of fury and humiliation. She spat that she shouldn't waste words on the lowborn and that for the Duke's sake, she'd let it go for now, but as she turned to leave, she threw one last threat over her shoulder. If you cross my path again, you'd better be prepared. Just as the venomous girl stalked away, a sweet voice called out Anna's name. It was Princess Angelina, looking lovely but with a worried expression clouding her face. She complimented Anna, who returned the sentiment. The princess then leaned in close, her hands fidgeting nervously. She had something important to tell Anna, something she needed to know for the ball tonight. She whispered urgently, her eyes wide with fear. Be careful at the ball. Before Anna could ask what she meant, an announcer's voice boomed through the hall, calling for the distinguished guests to take the floor with their partners for the first dance. Angelina gave a small, panicked apology and scurried off, leaving Anna bewildered. Anna just gave a playful wink in her direction, trying to appear unbothered. But as she turned, Ailey Edmund deliberately slammed her shoulder into Anna's, a petty act of revenge. The girl then sauntered straight towards Fyodor, her expression transforming into one of saccharine sweetness. Duke Plitzka, she cooed, I've been watching you from afar. She brazenly declared that he seemed to be glancing at her intently, as if he were going to ask for a dance and that she was going to accept. Fyodor looked utterly baffled, but before he could even form a reply, Anna smoothly stepped between them. A dazzling, confident smile spread across her face as she looked up at Fyodor. Will you dance with me? She asked, her voice clear and bold. A look of pleasant surprise crossed Fyodor's features, and he smiled back, a genuine, warm smile. Of course, he said, taking her hand. Ailey was left standing there, her jaw agape, sputtering about such unheard-of manners for a woman to ask a man to dance first. Anna paused, glancing back at the fuming girl. If you only wait to be chosen, she said coolly, you'll be taken for granted. You should learn how to seize what you want. With that final, cutting remark, she let Fyodor lead her to the dance floor. The violins swelled, filling the hall with a beautiful, soaring melody. They fell into the steps of the waltz, moving as one across the polished floor. A vision of elegance in a sea of dancers. As they twirled, his hand firm on her back. Fyodor leaned close. He murmured that he thought she'd be stiff, like her personality. But this unexpected, Anna just smirked, told him that she knew how to do quite a few things he wouldn't know about. Across the room, Prince Leas watched them, his expression unreadable as he sipped his wine. The moment the music faded, Leas clapped his hands together, drawing everyone's attention. He thanked them all for coming, and with a theatrical flourish, he snapped his fingers. Suddenly, a fine mist began to fall from the ceiling. Lias's voice boomed. I've specially asked the priest for holy water. May blessings rain upon you all. The crowd erupted in cheers, raising their hands to the miraculous shower. But for Anna and Fyodor, it was a catastrophe. A trap. Fyodor's eyes widened in alarm as he instinctively grabbed Anna, pulling her against him and shielding her with his body. It was a trap set by Leas. Fyodor swiftly threw his heavy ducal cloak over her, trying to cover every inch of her, enveloping her in darkness and the scent of his cologne. But it was too late. As he pulled her away from the center of the room, the tip of her shoe and the hem of her gown dipped into a puddle of the blessed water on the floor. A jolt of pure terror shot through her. Oh no. It touched the water, her heart seizing in her chest. Are you all right? Fyodor's voice was tight with concern. She looked up at him, her face pale, and whispered, the tip of my foot. It touched the water. From the top of the grand staircase, Prince Leas watched them, a slow, triumphant smirk spreading across his face. Fyodor, he thought, his eyes glinting with malice, you really care about your cousin. But what now? Soon you will have to wed Count Edmund's daughter, and Anna will be very hurt. Ailey Edmund, standing nearby, saw her chance. She snapped her fan shut with a sharp crack, and raised her voice to be heard by all. Ha! Everyone heard that, right? I'm the only one who can be Duke Plitzka's bride. She gestured towards the prince. Even his highness acknowledges it. Fyodor's jaw tightened. His voice was cold as steel as he addressed the room. Our Plitzka family has received no formal word of such a marriage. His gaze flickered to Ailey, filled with contempt. Even if talks had taken place, it could never be with the Edmund family. Ailey's smug expression shattered. Leas's smile vanished, replaced by a dangerous glint. Are you saying you will defy your sovereign's order? He challenged. The room fell silent. Then, with a chilling scrape of metal, Fyodor drew his sword. Anna gasped. What was he doing? I would never mean to defy my sovereign's order, Fyodor declared, his voice ringing with conviction. But our Plitzka family is not a tool for expanding power. He raised the sword high, the light catching on the polished steel. Even if it means giving up my title here and now, I swear, I, Fyodor, will never enter into a loveless marriage. Ailey stared in horrified disbelief, while Lias's face darkened with rage. But Lady Rosalia, still clinging to the prince's arm, sighed dreamily. Such a charming man. No wonder women pine for him. She looked up at Lias with wide, pleading eyes. Then, your highness, grant your loyal subject this earnest wish. Isn't everyone curious about how this marriage will end? Lias's lips twisted into a cruel smile. Of course, he said, his deceptively smooth. Speak out your wish before all who are present. He then gestured towards Anna, the only woman I want, standing right before me. Fyodor moved to stand protectively in front of her. Fyodor, Leah sneered, I never thought you'd go so far for a woman. Since the beauty chosen by him is here, she should say a word as well. Fyodor is willing to give up his title for you. He turned his piercing gaze on Anna. Surely you must give an answer, no? Fyodor tried to intervene, begging Lias not to trouble Anna, that these feelings were his alone. But Lias was relentless. Don't say that. I only wish to hear Anna's thoughts. It's not such a hard question, is it? The prince advanced on them, his voice dripping with condescension. Or is this a situation where you cannot state your stance? He reached out, as if to touch Fyodor's shoulder. Stop! Anna's voice cracked through the tension. She sliced hand away with surprising force. Tears welled in her eyes as she turned to Fyodor. I'm sorry, she choked out, for putting you in such a difficult spot. It was my mistake, trying to stay by your side even though I knew my lowly birth. She took a step back, turning away from him. Because of someone worthless like me, I can't let the country lose a loyal subject, she declared, her voice trembling but firm. Fyodor's heart clenched. He reached for her, but she pulled away. I'm sorry, Fyodor. I'll no longer keep you in my heart. If I leave, you'll finally be free. The words were a knife in his chest. He knew it was an act, a necessary performance to get them out of this mess, but why did it hurt so much? Lias watched, completely baffled. The holy water touched her, nothing happened. This wasn't how his plan was supposed to go. Fyodor pleaded with her. Anna, please calm down for a moment. But she shook her head, curtsying deeply to the prince. Forgive me, your highness, I must take my leave. And then she fled. She ran from the ballroom, her heart shattering with every step. Fyodor didn't hesitate. He drew his sword once more, but only to kneel before the throne, sheathing the blade and placing it on the floor before him. From this day forth, I will only love Anna, he vowed, his voice resonating with unshakable resolve. If that means giving up the honor of my family, I will gladly devote everything to your highness. And with his oath hanging in the stunned silence, he stood and walked out, following the woman he had just sworn his heart to. The crowd murmured in awe. I never thought the Duke would be so pure-hearted, one man said. Giving up a title for a woman, where else would you find such a man? Lias, however, was incandescent with fury. You! He roared at his guards, ace after them immediately. Fyodor found Anna collapsed in the corridor, her shoulders shaking, and gently helped her feet. A royal guard ran up, trying to stop them. Your Grace, please wait. Fyodor simply pulled Anna into his arms, telling her to hold on. He wrapped his cloak around her, shielding her from the world. If you leave like this, the guard warned, it'll put me in a very difficult position. Fyodor didn't even look at him. His gaze was fixed forward, his expression colder than a winter night. Whatever his highness wants to say, he stated, his voice dangerously low. Tell him to say it to me directly. He then turned and walked away, carrying Anna out of the palace and into the cool night air. They finally stopped by a quiet fountain, chaos of the ballroom fading behind them. Finally, a breather, Anna sighed, slumping down onto the stone edge. The garden was peaceful under the starry sky. Who knew holy water would come pouring out? She muttered, her face scrunching up in annoyance. Lias really has all sorts of ways to torment people. She shivered, wrapping the cloak tighter around herself. Fyodor stood silently, just watching her. He couldn't shake the image of her face when she'd said those heartbreaking words. Why does tear-filled eyes keep replaying in his mind? Let's just return to the manor, he said finally, his voice soft. As Anna stood up, something small and metallic slipped from the folds of her dress, clattering onto the stone ground. They both looked down in surprise. A brilliant, blinding light erupted from the object. It was the necklace, the one meant to suppress her dark energy. It was glowing with an otherworldly power, pulsing like a tiny star in the moonlight. This is, Anna whispered, her eyes wide with shock and wonder. A brilliant flash of light bursts from the jewel on her chest, and in that blinding moment, a memory slams into her. It's not her memory, not from this life. It's a vision, cold and dark. A girl's body, pale and lifeless, chained deep beneath the water. The weight of the chains, the suffocating pressure of the deep, she feels it all. And then a flicker, a brilliant blue gem, identical to the one she wears, gleaming in the darkness. Her eyes snap open, the vision fading but the feeling, the raw power remaining. Could this be it? Could this be what Aloys meant by the effect of the engraving? A wild, electrifying thoughts in her mind, a solution so perfect, so elegant, it takes her breath away. Her face lights up with manic glee as she whirls around to face her companion. Fyodor, she exclaims, her voice buzzing with excitement. I think I found it. The key to move the order. Fyodor just stares at her, a picture of confusion, a single question mark floating above his head. But she doesn't have time for his bewilderment. She grabs her elegant purple gown, yanking at the fabric. No time to explain, she declares, her mind already racing 10 steps ahead. First, let's change clothes. Fyodor's jaw practically hits the floor. Change clothes? Here? He can't believe his ears, sputtering out that she even brought covert gear to a high society party. She just smirks, a glint pure confidence in her eyes. Of course, she retorts as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Would you head to battle without a weapon? And with that, she reveals her practical, battle-ready attire underneath the fancy dress. A simple corset, sturdy pants, and a harness strapped across her waist. She tosses him a bundle of dark fabric. This one's for you, she says, her smile turning wicked. He just stands there dumbfounded as she holds up her own discarded gown. He finally finds his voice, asking if she truly expects him to change right here out in the open. Shall I find you a fitting room instead? He asks, his tone laced with disbelief, but she just waves a dismissive hand, already pulling at the sleeve of his formal jacket. You strip so casually now, without shame. a hint of a smile playing on his lips despite himself. Been through worse together, haven't we? She reminds him, her own smile unwavering, and he can't argue with that. With a resigned sigh, he pulls his jacket off, revealing the perfectly sculpted physique beneath. She can't help but stare, her eyes tracing the lines of his abs. You like this? She teases, her voice a low purr as she rests a finger on her chin. You've got quite the physique. A faint blush dusts his cheeks, but he quickly composes himself, turning his back to her. He grumbles that she's only just noticing now, telling her that's enough gawking. But as he turns, her teasing expression melts away, replaced by a flicker of concern. A large, old scar mars the skin of his back. It looks old. Was it treated properly? She wonders. He dismisses her worry, explaining that his butler helps with he can't reach. A strange thought pops into her head. Without a butler, he'd never manage alone. He seems to read her mind, a wry look on his face as he pulls on the new shirt. If I can't, I'd survive, he says simply. Then, with a devilish glint in his eye, he adds, if it bothers you so much, I'll just get a spouse. A spouse? Just to a Plattison? The idea is so ridiculous, yet. With his personality, he'd probably do it, but never actually ask them for help. What a frustrating man. He cuts off her thoughts, telling her to turn around so he can change his pants. But now it's her turn to tease. Why hide now of all times? She asks, a playful smirk spreading across her lips. I'll stand guard, just get it over with. He lets out an exasperated sigh, muttering, enough with the jokes, as he quickly changes. She cheekily covers her face with his discarded shirt, a muffled giggle escaping her lips. Shy after all, she thinks, feeling a strange warmth spread through her chest. Tell me once you're dressed. She's from behind the fabric. A moment later, his voice, now laced with annoyance, says he's done. She lowers the shirt, and his expression is one of pure irritation. She can't resist one last jab. Your face looks almost disappointed. He looks away, flustered as she straightens her own clothes. What are you saying? I'm not that kind of person, okay? She protests, though her grin says otherwise. And besides, we have an important mission. With that, she leaps into action, vaulting over a nearby wall with effortless grace. Over there! Follow me, she calls back, her eyes fixed on the target. She lands silently, every muscle coiled and ready. They creep along the side of the grand mansion, staying close to the shadows. As they near a large, ornate window, Fyodor's voice is a low whisper in her ear. What are you staring at? And the crown prince is fuming, his voice sharp and angry as he berates a kneeling knight. He shouts at them for being idiots, for not even catching Eloise's shadow. The knight apologizes profusely, but then offers a new piece of information. They investigated a woman who moved to the kingdom. Around the time Eloise vanished. He holds up a portrait, and Eloise's blood runs cold. It's a face she knows better than her own. The silver hair, the stoic expression, Anna. Her loyal maid from her past life. Her heart hammers against her ribs, her breath catching in her throat. The prince confirms their plan soon. They'll capture Anna. Suddenly, a floorboard creaks nearby. The prince's head snaps up. Who is there? He barks. Panic flashes in Fyodor's eyes. Hide, he hisses, grabbing her and pulling her back into the shadows. Just as a guard steps outside, a brilliant, magical light flashes from the brooch on Eloise's chest. She instinctively claps a hand over it, praying they weren't seen. She and Fyodor press themselves against the wall, hidden behind a pillar, hearts pounding in unison. If they're exposed here, it's all over. Dying by Eloise's sword wouldn't be a bad end. Fyodor thinks grimly, his hand tightening on the hilt of his dagger. The guard takes a step closer, his footsteps echoing in the tense silence. Just as he's about to round the corner, a soft, feminine calls out from the garden. En patrol, Sir Anta? It's the pink-haired lady from the party, holding a lantern that casts a gentle glow on her face. The guard turns, surprised to see her. Ah, my lady, he says, his tone softening. She explains that she was just on her way to deliver a midnight snack to His Highness. With a sweet, innocent smile, she holds out the basket. If you don't mind, could you deliver this for me instead? The guard readily agrees, telling her it's dangerous for her to be out so late. He takes the basket and heads back inside, leaving the garden quiet once more. The pink-haired woman waits until he's gone, then turns towards the shadows, her voice calm and clear. You can come out now. Eloise and Fyodor emerge, their expressions a mixture of shock and suspicion. How did she end up here? The woman smiles serenely. After you two left, the party got boring, so I slipped away quickly, she explains, her eyes lingering on Eloise. And blonde hair suits you remarkably well. Eloise is stunned into silence. Fyodor steps in front of her protectively, his voice low and demanding. Why are you helping us? The woman's smile never wavers. Just repaying a debt, she says cryptically, turning to lead the way. They follow her through the manicured gardens, their minds racing. A debt. They arrive at a grand ornate room, seemingly a dead end. Eloise finally finds her voice, her eyes narrowed. You've guessed my name, haven't you? Since when? The woman turns, and the look in her pink eyes is ancient and knowing. Since the day you pulled me out from the water. The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. The water spirit. She's the water spirit Eloise saved. With a soft click, she presses a hidden switch and a section of the wall slides open, revealing a dark, descending staircase. I'm only paying back that debt, she says softly. Don't be so wary.